Om Vishnu Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesh Shrinivari Paschati Discipline. How many of you are in a relationship presently? How many of you have been in a relationship? That's everybody. Okay. So most of you are in a relationship or have been in a relationship. That's good for us to know. This is my wife, Jahnava. She's a marriage counselor. She knows a lot more about marriage than I do from years and years of practically guiding people. So she has real life experience. Of course, I have real life experience being married, but you can be married and be stupid. It's possible. Like you don't learn. And I've also studied what she studied to some degree, not as much. And in studying it, I began studying it maybe after I'd been married 25 years. And I learned so many things that I wish I would have known when I was married. After 25 years, I still didn't know. And just like I can play mridanga about as good as I could play 50 years ago, 50 years later. So it's not just because you're doing something, you get better. Not necessarily. And so what I found by studying marriage, I also give a marriage seminar, so I had to read a lot of books on marriage to get more clarity. And I started to feel like studying marriage is like studying for a driving exam. Like they wouldn't let you drive a car if you didn't have driving some form of practice and some form of education. Do you have that in the UK, driver's education? You do that, yeah. So you have to pass some kind of test, what to speak if you're going to drive a truck or an airplane, a helicopter, right? So I believe, maybe some of you know, I believe in some countries where ISKCON exists, they will not authorize, if it has to be like devotees, let's say, who are living in the temples, they wouldn't authorize a marriage unless they took a marriage course. That was preliminary. And I think that's a great idea. Just like in ISKCON, we have the disciples course. Before you get initiated, you take a course to understand what initiation is, the ramifications, and so forth. So I believe, just as no one would fly an airplane without training or drive a car, I believe everyone should learn, take courses on marriage before they marry. And if you're already married, yeah, that's good that you're here. So that's what we're doing today. And you can prevent lots of problems if you know beforehand. Right? And if you talk to anyone who's been married who didn't really know anything about marriage, they will tell you I made so many mistakes. So the idea here is, number one, to avoid those mistakes, and not only avoid them, but number two, to do things that will enhance the marriage. And there are a lot of very nice people who have not so very nice marriages. Not because they're not nice people, and not even because they're not compatible. It's just they don't know. They don't understand. And I think as devotees, we have, in a sense, more challenges, because we're trying to adopt philosophically as well. And sometimes we don't understand how to do that. Something very interesting happened in 1970, 71. One devotee compiled a book of everything Srila Prabhupada said about marriage, like everything he had said up to date. And the statistics for marriages in the early 70s in ISKCON are dismal. Ramna Sukha. What do you imagine the statistics would be of
Early 70s?
Yeah, of how many marriages survived in the early 70s?
Well, I mean, survived like into the 80s or something.
So are still alive today if they're living.
Oh, still alive today. 10%.
Yeah, 10%. Hare Krishna. So we had the book of everything Prabhupada said about marriage, and only 10% made it. And then we also had been told many times, if you're just Krishna conscious, your marriage will work. And we've seen sometimes the opposite. The more Krishna conscious they were, the worse it became. Yeah, so-called Krishna conscious. Have you seen that? You know, get a little too renounced and too detached. And so it's important to not blindly enter it. Just, well, I've read everything Prabhupada said about it. Yeah. So we're going to begin. I want to begin talking about grihastha as an ashram and the function of grihastha, because I see that often it's misunderstood, and so people start out on the wrong foot. They start out on the foot like, well, I'm going to get married so I can enjoy. I'm going to get married so I can be happy. And it's not that you won't enjoy and you won't be happy, but that's not the reason to do it. And you might say, well, then why would you do it if you're not going to be happy and you're not going to enjoy? Well, if you contextualize it within the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, you don't do anything to enjoy. It's all for Krishna's enjoyment. You don't do anything to make yourself happy. But, you know, and we understand that. It's a basic tenet of our philosophy. It's very clear. Everything is for Krishna's enjoyment, right? Except when you get married. It's no longer for his enjoyment. It's for my enjoyment. It's like it happens all the time. It's very interesting. I'm totally fixed. I understand the philosophy. And then I get married and I forget everything and think, my wife is for my enjoyment, my husband's for my enjoyment, grihastha life is for my enjoyment, like that. There's some truth to it because we have needs and desires we have to fulfill, and there is satisfaction and happiness in that, doing that, but that's not the foundational cause of your happiness. And if you think your wife's going to make you happy and you're basing your entire spectrum of happiness on that, that's putting a lot of pressure on her and giving her a job that's impossible and vice versa, right? It doesn't mean having expectations for your husband or wife are wrong. It's just that if you think, you know, they're the solution to all your problems, it doesn't work that way. But what I have found in my counseling, specifically with men, is that they will say things like, the grihastha ashram is getting in the way of my Krishna consciousness because it's taking time away. Now I'm working. What speak if you have children, it takes lots of time. The husband has demands, the wife has demands. You know, I'm spending all this time cooking. You know, I could be doing seva. Let him starve. You know, he'll figure it out. My wife's making some demands on me. She wants to spend money that we don't have to spend, and I'm working hard. And quite common amongst those who lived in the brahmacharya ashram, but it's still a common thing that I see. And I think one really important aspect of this is that just the principle that your success in Krishna consciousness is founded in your success in your ashram. So like a lot of these people are saying, okay, let me go back a little bit. I'm starting to wake up now. We were up late last night. Yeah. So they're saying, when I do make these sacrifices for my family, I'm losing my Krishna consciousness. And so they don't make those sacrifices and they destroy their ashram by doing that. They ruin everything. So it's like, in the name of me being Krishna conscious, I'm going to ruin the ashram. That's what I see all the time. It's pretty interesting. Have you seen it? Yeah. So what I always tell them is, success in your ashram is success in your Krishna consciousness. You cannot separate it. And so all these sacrifices you make, which don't look sometimes like they're Krishna conscious, because they're, you know, they're taking, gotta go visit the relatives because you just have a kid and they want to see the grandkid, and you have to do all these things. They go, it's like, what a waste of time, it's Maya, blah, blah, blah. And those are the things you do as a grihasta. So what I found is there was like a resistance to accept the duties of grihasta life. And the only way that I could make sense to them is saying, but that's part of it. You're not brahmachari, you're not single, you're not brahmachari, you're married, and these things come with it, and these are the things you have to perfect. And so one of the things that happened a lot in the early 70s is that people would get married, and especially men would respond just in this way: oh, Prabhupada, marriage is Maya. I want to give it up. That was like the coping mechanism. How are you going to deal with it? Just give it up, then the problem goes away. And Prabhupada never said, yeah, I know it's Maya and I know it's taking you away from Krishna, and you should like just renounce it. Never said any of that. He just said, this is your responsibility. Don't give it up. That was always, this is your responsibility. And then to some devotees who wanted to give it up and take sannyas, he would say, well, first become ideal grihasta, then we can talk about sannyasa. So you're irresponsibly wanting to give up grihasta life. The same thing's going to happen to you when you become a sannyasi, and we've seen that. Some people took sannyas when they were young and then got married later. As the joke goes, they did varnashram backwards. Started as sannyas and then became grihasta, then vanapras, then maybe sannyas again, maybe not. So I think that is foundational. And so when you look at marriage, a lot of times you will calculate the success of your marriage simply on the basis of the success of your relationship. That's not always true, because you can have a successful grihasta ashram with not 100% fantastic relationship, because you're taking responsibility, you're doing everything right, you're serving your wife, she's serving you, everything's going well. And if we just base it on the relationship, well, the relationship's not that good, so I think, we're not compatible, this and that. And we kind of throw in a towel too easily. And another thing I wanted to say is that a lot of times we find that people have not such good relationships in marriage, and they go to counseling and they can turn the relationship around. So a lot of times you think it's doomed relationship. My husband and I, we're just in different universes. We're not, we have different interests, we're different people, we don't see things to eye, blah, 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 blah. Well, many couples don't see everything eye to eye anyway. It's good to know that some of the best marriages are among people who don't see everything eye to eye. So I'm not happy, it's all about me, I'm not happy. And it's not what it's about. So what I want to say is that you can take something that doesn't look good, and if you know principles, some of what we're going to teach today, you can make it good. You can make it work. Or at least you can make it Krishna conscious. Now, this is just my personal opinion. If at the end of my life I'm Krishna conscious, I would say that's a good marriage. And at the end of my life, I'm in Maya, but I had a great marriage, I would say it's a failed marriage. Because the purpose of the ashram is to bring you closer to Krishna, right? So if you two together are helping one another advance in Krishna consciousness, that's going to make you happy, and that's the success of your relationship. So I think that's extremely important. Otherwise, we'll just look at it, how happy am I on a scale of 1 to, I'm not that happy, then maybe I'll find another guy or another girl make me happier. It's like that is a problem. And okay, I'm going to say something which I didn't originate, but I heard it on YouTube. You've heard of YouTube, right? I heard it on YouTube and I loved it. This lady's an expert in marriage, and she said, the culture today is preparing you for divorce. It's like everything you're learning about romance and love and relationships, it's all very self-centered. It's all about me. And I need my wife to be this way, my husband, and et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's good to recognize. And I think that's why all those, 400 pages of quotes by Prabhupada didn't work, because everyone was conditioned by the culture, that was the hippie culture. that Prabhupada was preaching to, So there was no commitment. And hippie culture was anti-commitment. It was just the relationships were based around sex, and it didn't work. So it's good to be aware that we have been conditioned in a way that is working against us. So when you're having difficulties in your relationship, a lot of that, it has nothing to do really with you or your wife or your husband. It's the conditioning and the values that you grew up with and so forth. And being surrounded by divorce, it's just common. That's the coping mechanism. We'll just give up. So I have to go back.
Yeah.
I wanted to read a few things that Prabhupada said, and then I'm going to turn it over to my wife, and we'll get into more of the practical aspects of making marriage work. Oh yeah, I'm going to read something. I didn't write it, but it's very powerful. Anyone can fall in love, but building a relationship is a totally different thing. Marriage requires work. In other words, what happens? Well, people who've been married for a while, they know this. But what happens is you fall in love. And when you fall in love, you think, we love one another so much, we're not going to have any problems. This is a match made in heaven, right? Do you know that falling in love is hormonal? Did you know that? That's like, it's the interaction is generating drugs in your brain. And that's called love. I don't know if it's dopamine or all those other drugs. It's a cocktail of some sort. But that wears off. Have any of you noticed that it wears off? And then once it wears off, that's when you have to start working on it. And so the illusion is like, we don't have to work because we're so in love and we're so compatible. And when we were first together, people would see us and go, oh, you're such a good couple. You're so in love. And we are a good couple and we are in love, but it requires work. And I think that's really important. So don't think just because we had a good chart. Some people with bad charts have better marriages than people with good charts because they know how to work through it. So that's one of the most important lessons. It requires work and it's constant. And again, it's an ashram. We want to make it successful. Okay. This is from Srila Prabhupada in the Bhagavatam. Marriage is actually a duty performed in mutual. Can we make it bigger? How do we make it bigger? Marriage is actually a duty performed in mutual cooperation as directed in authoritative scriptures for what? Sex, drugs, rock and roll. For what? For spiritual events. That's why we do it. Ashram means something in connection with God. So Prabhupada said it's grihastha ashram. If it's not going to help you, if the ashram is not going to help you, why would you enter into it? It doesn't make sense. This is from Gorkishore Das Babaji. As a chaste wife respects her husband as a servant of God, in the same way a faithful husband respects his wife as a servant of God. So when you respect someone as a servant of God, what do you do? Do you exploit them or serve them? Right? So this is my wife, Jahnava Devi Dasi. She is a servant of Krishna. She is not my servant, although sometimes she cooks for me and I ask her to do things. But my mentality is she is a servant of Krishna first. I am not an enjoyer of my wife. Krishna is the enjoyer of my wife. That's what Gorkishore Das Babaji said. He said, you serve your wife as because most men, when they get married, think, I am the Purusha, this is my wife should serve my sense pleasure. And that there is truth to it. Otherwise, the men are saying, well, they might as well not get married. She's not going to do anything. I just have to serve her. No, it's not fair. So it's not entirely like that, but Prabhupada always said, if the man has that mentality, naturally the wife, out of love, would want to serve. But he doesn't think that she belongs to me, just as nothing belongs to me. Right? My wife doesn't belong to me, and my husband doesn't belong to me. So I think that's important. And here's a beautiful one. In the family where the husband is pleased with his wife, and the wife with her husband, happiness will assuredly be lasting. That's Manosamhita. And we've also heard where the husband and wife are not fighting, the goddess of fortune will live. So, if you're interested in financial stability and economic development, don't fight it. It works against you. Hare Krishna. But marriage means to take full responsibility of a woman. This is real marriage, Vedic marriage. When I get married, when I get married, our boys and girls, and this is when Prabhupada gets married, the boys and girls. The boy takes the vow that I take responsibility of your maintenance throughout your life. And the girl promises, I desire to serve you throughout my whole life. So the woman, the female, is the energy. When a man comes at home, he sees everything is nicely decorated. My wife is well dressed and food stuff is nicely prepared. He becomes encouraged. He can work more nicely. Therefore, woman is the energy. The woman gives the energy and he can work. So how you deal with one another is going to make a huge difference in how you face and deal with the world. And if you come home and it's hell, then how can you exist in the world's hell and you come home and it's hell? It's like, no. Doesn't work that way. Take this moment. Yeah. Mm. Mm. Huh, listen to this one. Wow. Want to hear it? This is just confirming I don't make up stuff. The two marriages recommended by you may be performed at that time as well, but only after having sufficiently counseled the respective devotees. This marriage business should not be taken as a farce, but it is a very serious matter. So Prabhupada noticed that the devotees were, they were not taking responsibility to it. Yeah. There's just a few more slides and I'm going to turn it over to John. Whoops. We don't have a button, and just goes switch you finger.
Just use this, don't use the other thing. Is that what you want to read?
No, we are. These.
You just use the arrow.
Yeah, so here's a principle that I've, after teaching many marriage workshops, one principle stood out to me. And it's the same principle that defines surrender in bhakti. There are 6 items of surrender, and the first item is do what is favorable for bhakti. And the second item is avoid what's unfavorable. And I thought, well, that's a perfect mantra for marriage, because you don't always want to do certain things in marriage. And if you think, will this help the marriage, do it. Or if what I'm desiring or demanding is going to hurt the marriage, don't do it. Because what's the point? You'll get something, but at the cost of hurting the marriage, it's not worth it. So it's kind of it's a general guideline. Like when devotees say, should I do this or should I do that? Then the general answer is do what's best for your bhakti. And I've seen Prabhupada give those answers when people couldn't decide what to do. And he didn't want to give them the answer specifically. He just said, you do what is best for your bhakti. So I think it's the same with marriage. Things may be difficult, etc. You may have to make sacrifices, say, I'm sorry, this and that. I didn't do anything wrong. And I'm going to say, I'm sorry. Are you crazy? I'm not going to do that. Will it help the marriage? Just do it. That's the principle. A little joke. Jokes are allowed in England. You guys like to laugh. Yeah. People say, how do you become humble? And I say, well, just get married. Because that's what happens when you live closely with another person. They're going to tell you all the things they don't like about you because they're with you all the time. And when you're single, who's going to tell you what they don't like about you? And if they do, you can, say whatever and leave because you have no obligation. So they're going to, obviously it's challenging at times and difficult to deal with situations, but we want to deal with it in a way that is going to help the marriage progress, and that will get us closer to Krishna. That's the idea. That's the way I see it. Okay, so Jahnava is going to take over, and she's the expert. I was just blabbing a little bit.
Not true. Hi, Krishna, everyone. So I want to just take a poll one more time now that the room is fuller and it seems like everyone's arrived. Well, first raise your hand if you are actually married. Okay, great. And then raise your hand if you're in a relationship, so considering marriage. Okay, and then raise your hand if you're not in a relationship but looking to get into one. Okay, amazing. I was like, maybe, I don't know. Yeah,
If they've
so
been in a relationship,
yeah,
because that helps.
I think everyone has been in one. Raise your hand if you've never been in a relationship. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, so I just do want to do one disclaimer here is that we're not here, for those of you who aren't married yet, I'm not here to convince you to necessarily marry, the person that you're with right now, and I'm not here to convince you not to. So I'm really here just to give you what we call psychoeducation, is to educate you on some basic principles of really key components of what makes a relationship work, and maybe give you some more insights into whether you think the relationship that you're in, these are for the people who aren't married yet, I'll get to those who are married, whether you think the relationship you're in has the ingredients to make that marriage successful. And then for those of you who are married, too late, but at the same time, never too late to, what we say, hit the reset button and, start marriage number 2. And that's a completely legitimate thing, is to feel that, like, if I'm not satisfied with my marriage right now, it, like Mahatma was saying, it doesn't mean it's over and it's never going to be good and we can't make it good and I'm out of here. But it means let's look at what's not working and start over, in a sense. And that means me start over, not just you start over, but me take responsibility and accountability and think how I can do better. So it's all good. It's never too late in that sense. But again, we're not here to like manipulate, convince, push in any way, shape, or form. We're just offering you really valuable, time-tested knowledge and wisdom that's based on decades and thousands of couples of research-based evidence. All right.
sound good?
Yes.
Sound good? Everybody here? Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
One request, my wife is in India, so I'm just connecting her to my phone if that's okay.
Sure, absolutely.
We're on Zoom.
Okay, yeah, the Zoom meeting.
It's on the group chat.
It's on the what?
Whatever is easier for you.
She can connect right to.
Yeah, so I don't want to just be blabbing the whole time. I want you to be thinking and reflecting and talking to each other too. So what I want to do is start out with a little exercise. And I'll just give a little explanation. And some of you I've worked with before, some of you are my clients. So this may sound repetitive, but it's always good to hear stuff again. So in the work that I do, a relationship is compared to a house. And we call this house the sound relationship house, right? So everybody wants a sound, a solid, a good, a stable relationship. So if you can picture a house, just your basic framed house, that's the relationship. And the foundation of a house is the first thing that goes up when we build a home. And if the foundation is cracked or maybe it's tilted, you're going to have all kinds of problems in that house. So it's very, very important that the foundation of your home, in America, mostly we build cement foundations. There's wood foundations too. You might build wooden ones here, but we do, our home is cement. So just think of the kind of foundation you're familiar with, cement or wood, and just think how important it is that it's really solid. And that is what everything, all the 7 stories, the 7 stories are like 7 principles. All the 7 stories are going to be built upon that foundation. Now, the sides of the house, the walls or the sides that keep everything intact, are what we call trust and commitment. Okay.
What's the foundation called?
The foundation are the 7 principles.
Oh,
which
okay. All right.
we're going to get into maybe one of them today, hopefully. And those are the things that really keep us, well, okay, good point. Good that you pointed that out. And those 7 layers, they start from the very basic thing, which is just like respecting the other person, taking time to make them feel heard and appreciated. In fact, there's a lot of research that shows like 90% of couples who were interviewed about why they split up, why they didn't stay together, was because they felt unappreciated. They felt not listened to, not understood, not heard, neglected, unappreciated, just like, oh, hi, 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 instead of how are you? And that looks good on you today. And thank you for doing that. Just not important, that other people and other things are more important to me and in my life than you are. So that was like the main complaint of why someone just thought, I'm done, I've had it, I'm out of here. I just feel not valued, not important, just like anyone or anything else in the world. So it's like from that all the way up to things like working on conflicts, figuring out how to take an argument and make that argument something that brings you closer instead of making something that sends you in opposite sides of the room or opposite ends of the house, or feeling resentful and feeling revengeful, and all these feelings that come out when people argue, but rather a door that opens for you to begin to learn to understand that person more and know how to connect better, up until things like building a life together. What are our life dreams and our life goals? How do we want to serve Krishna together? What's the legacy that we want to leave either to our children or to our community once we're gone? So those are the different layers or levels of the home. But getting back to the sides, that's based on trust and commitment. So what I'd like to ask of each of you to do, just take a minute and then you'll share it with your partner. And there's no wrong answers here. It's okay. So don't judge yourself and don't judge the other person. What does trust mean to you? And what does it look like in a relationship? How is it manifested? And
They have to have partners.
I know, just a minute. And then commitment. What does commitment look like to you? And how does that show up? How will you show up? And how does your partner show up? And they're going to overlap a little bit. And you can turn to the person next to you. Or if there isn't a person, everybody take a minute and find a partner.
Doesn't have to be your partner, but
Yeah, it could be anyone. And then once you've found your partner, go ahead and just individually, again, write down, how would you like trust and commitment to show up in your relationship? What does it mean? What does it look like? How is it manifested? So we'll just take a few minutes and do that.
you have.
I will use it.
Prabhu, why don't you two partner up?
There's new people.
Anybody, does anyone not have a partner?
There's 3 new people.
Yeah.
What do we do about it?
Just go to them and tell them what we're doing. Oh, you just, oh, okay. Oh. What is it? What is Chris? What does it look like practically? According to you? Not according to Google. According to you. Dangerous, but it's by the computer. Oh, yeah, did I put it on? That'd be too small. I don't know, maybe it's okay. It's all right. She's going in the bathroom. Oh, I don't know where she's going. Maybe she thinks she's going to the bathroom. There's not one upstairs.
Good reason to play. The kind of environment that you have, being sensitive to salary for it could be like the other person is also a wife living on it, and also that person my partner some picture and again, ask her and also, and then he does he let her know that why doesn't that change and then that's not that's what we like that from parents that is where I say she not that that is the
Yeah, great.
this is how I'm looking at it.
Thank you.
You Matt?
You have one, you have a wife and partner?
You have five
Look at you. I've never seen that before.
And we had Sadhu in progress. The Yudhisthira said, once we get.
Who said?
Yudhisthira, so once we get husband in progress.
Yeah.
made it for him.
Yeah,
We have wife in progress.
yeah. We have to,
Oh, wives don't need it?
and write it one, you know that, did she tell you that? Yeah, sharp,
5 to 1.
no, one, well, okay.
We have to be physically out of it. Really? Wow.
Yeah.
So after this, I'll do the four principles,
What?
I mean. Four.
amongst other things, but yeah.
Well, after this, we're gonna get feedback and then am I handing it back over to you?
If I come up with something, I'll tell you, but I wasn't planning doing anything other than following you.
Okay.
Um, I mean, I could talk about the respect part. That's a pretty powerful point. It was the main reason they left. They felt misunderstood and
Just, yeah, just not important, neglected, unappreciated.
I really like that song.
You said we were in love. You know, you said that then. We are in love and we, something else. Should I wrap it up in a minute? Should I give them one more minute?
I always ask who needs more time.
They're still
If they're-
going strong, right?
If they're engaged,
They look quite engaged, don't they?
two ways. I do it. I just ask, or I have some of our own ask them. But it's usually when I
I'll get sharing, right?
it goes from curious sharing to the light talk, and then you can tell.
Yeah, I think it's moving to light talk now.
There's a devotee who teaches Kavi. He teaches a course and stuff. It's a person trust, especially the foundation of any relationships.
Should I ask them if they need more time?
You counseled them? And how he knew you?
He knows me, but with a different woman. Stuff. Yeah, it's two different women. This must be his third. If it's the person I'm thinking of, it's hard to tell. Yeah, he looks- yeah, I think it's the same guy. I've talked to twice already. Hard to remember. How's everyone doing? Or do you need more time? Or are you just chatting now? Just chatting, okay.
Anyone need more time? Raise your hand.
I think.
1 more minute? 1 more minute, finish up. Okay.
One of those little shiny things.
Just need a carton.
Yeah.
Portal.
Here.
Like a school bell. If you say stop, they'll keep talking. They'll say stop.
I know. Okay, it's been a minute. All right. So, do we have any brave souls in the audience here that would like to share anything about their own personal, what they wrote down, or something they learned from their partner, or anything that you learned doing this exercise? Yes.
I partnered with Kunal Prabhu, trying to understand his perspective as well. So for me, trust was about the other person, like the feeling of comfort that the other person is taking my feeling, my expectation, my requirement into consideration when they do things. They can hide things from me, but they hide it in good faith or based on understanding that it's also kind of accounting for some of my fears, my concerns when they do that. So hiding itself is not the problem. The lack of thinking of what the other person would react if they get to know this from a third
Yes.
person is the
Yes.
the requirement of trust.
That's really nice.
And I think Prabhu had resonated a similar kind of a thing where you expect them to kind of let you know things instead of just any issue, positive, negative, anything, and saying that out and kind of discussing it out. In terms of commitment, it was more around uh, trying to two parts there, like spiritual commitment and material commitment. Spiritual commitment is um, one that, like, for example, I expect my wife to, whatever we commit to, for example, we don't leave the temple before we finish up the services, or we try to finish chanting before 7, like whatever we take up together, or we will ensure that that is done. Like we committed like 10 to 15% of our monthly income to the temple. So whatever it is, we ensure that it's happening. And if the other person doesn't do it, you don't join the other person where you actually oppose the other person and say that we have committed, it's not your commitment, my commitment. So we will need to make good on this commitment.
Mhm.
That is the spiritual part of the commitment that I expect, where even if I fall down or I don't honor the commitment, there is a push from the other side.
Wow.
And material commitment is more about just again just kind of it goes back to the same trust equation of saying that you are doing something keeping the other person in mind, like you're committing to the other person's feeling and expectations.
That's
So-
beautiful. Yeah, I'm so thorough. You covered a lot of ground there. And what I hear you saying is that we're in this together. It's a partnership. And it's not like 80% me and 20% you, or 80% you, but it's equal, 50-50. And your well-being is as important to me as my well-being. So we're in this together, and we hold each other accountable, and we act in integrity. And if one of us sways away from that, we hold the other person accountable.
For example, if I say something that is partly on the almost borderline offense to some other devotee, it comes into that zone.
Yeah.
You have to kind of weed me away from that zone, and I'll do the same.
Yeah.
And you don't take offense to that. I say that like what you're doing is
Mm.
is borderline offense. So don't speak
Mm.
about it even in a joking way. Don't speak about the devotee that way.
Yeah.
So you listen. You don't take offense to what I'm saying.
Right. I love that. Yeah, so there's enough trust, enough safety. So that if you want to point something out to me that you feel I've done incorrectly, I'll be able to hear that from you and not just defend myself and say, no, I didn't. What are you talking about? But like, oh, thank you for putting that out to me. I appreciate that.
So you're saying you trust one another's intentions when they give feedback. It's you trust that the motive is to help
Yeah.
you, not to harm you or put you down. It's good.
That's really wonderful. Kunal, you had your hand up, didn't you? No, somebody did. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So mine is a little bit the other way around, seeing it from my wife's point of view.
Yeah.
I'm following Bhakti, and from her point, I see that we've got this commitment, and she's really appreciative of like sadhana and our kids as well. Our pancakes every morning. She's not so much like got a sadhana, and I guess she doesn't want to. Like, been married 14 years, so it's not like easy threads. if she doesn't like have a nasty surprise, like in a few years where I go really deep and she's not there, and it's just like, hold it, yeah, I allowed you to have this and whatnot, and being appreciative. So I guess like trust and commitment is we're going to work together for a really good reason.
Yeah.
She's not going to get screwed over by the fact that she feels like completely like, who is this guy? All right, we've got kids, we've been married for all of this time. So I see it from that side of it. It's like not what trust and commitment you need to give me, but what I need to sort of give back to my wife and kids.
That's amazing. That's very dharmic. You know, that's like Mahatma was saying, you know, doing it for all the right reasons. Yeah. Do you want to say something?
Well, one thing, one of the things we're dealing with as devotees is levels of spiritual advancement that may not be as common amongst non-devotees. It may be common some degree amongst religious people, but many people, when they marry, are more or less on the same spiritual level, and one of them may tend to go faster up, and another one may actually slack off. And so down the road, you were started like this, and you're like this, and that unnecessarily can create problems, because which, like you're saying, you're trying, well, how can we get along unless we're like this? Well, you can't. You don't have to be like this to get along. You can be like this, and it's just natural. It's normal. But if you allow that to affect a relationship, then you're basing the whole relationship on somebody's sadhana, basically, or their attitude towards Krishna consciousness. And I see a lot of people, just especially men, get really frustrated with that if their wives are lacking. And it's very destructive to the relationship, and they're always bugging them. And basically, it turns into a lot of criticism. What's wrong with you? And why are you so bad? And etc. So I don't know what percentage of marriages the couples end up a little different, but it's a lot. You know, if you're going to be married for 50 years, you're not going to be the same person. The person you marry and the person you're married to years later is much different. You know, so my wife says, "You're the same. You didn't change at all." That's me, you know. But most people change. So that's really good. You just have to be aware and adapt to it. It's not, you know, the person you marry today will be different. Maybe in a better way, maybe in a way you don't like, but that doesn't have to disturb the relationship.
Also, what I appreciate about your realization is that it's based on reality, not on fantasy. And it's being positive about reality, not negative about it. And then, because one thing we can get into is, well, I wish he was like that. Well, I wish she was like that. Well, why can't he be? And why can't she be? Instead of, well, this is how he is, and this is how she is, and let me focus on the positive things instead of looking for the negative things, because that is very toxic. And it causes a lot of discontent and a lot of unhappiness. And it's based on Bollywood and Disney and, you know, all these things that we see in the movies that just aren't true and real in our world. So I like the fact that you're grounded in truth and reality, and you're looking at that and saying, okay, what do I do with this? You know, I have lemons, let me make lemonade, you know, making the best of the bad bargain, you know, whatever little phrase we want to put there. But it's just the way to be happy and content with what you have. And then you focus on the good things and not look at the negative things. Did you want to say?
Yeah, I think this ties in with the foundation of respect, because if you're upset about the spiritual position or whatever with your spouse, as Jahnava was saying, there's going to be a tendency to disrespect them and always complain of it. And well, yeah, I just get up. Why don't you get up early? I just get up late. Can't you get up early? Oh, it's like Prabhupada said, it's not a thing. In 6 hours, you know. It's like, you know, what do we call weaponizing Shastra? You know, how's your relationship? I use the Shastra to destroy my marriage. So I think it's, the way I take it personally is I think it's a test of my personal ability to accept someone who has different standards or feelings or beliefs or attitudes than I do. And I can be edified by entering that world. And like my wife is saying, it's realistic. I mean, it's just the way it is. You can't, it's, you know, if you're gonna get married, you just have to realize that this person is gonna be much different from you. And if you don't accept it, you're gonna spend the whole life demeaning them, and demeaning another person is, like Jahnava said, the main reason a person would leave is they feel disrespected. But not only disrespected, misunderstood. You don't know how painful it is to be misunderstood. Like when we were young hippies, there was a band called The Misunderstood, I think. What was that song? We just want to be understood or something. Yeah. Or maybe that was a devotee band friend, Misunderstood. But I think it was a song like, we just want to be understood. Or Bob Dylan said, don't try to understand, you can't understand your kids. They're like in a different universe. You have to accept them. Don't just accept what you can't change. So if we can't do that, then the marriage is just going to go down, because we'll be berating all the time. Why do you do that? Why do you have to do that? You always do this, you know. It's such an important point.
It's like what you're saying is, why can't you just be like me? You know, why do you have to be you? Well, if you could just be like me, everything would be great. So, you know, you're saying like, well, I just want to marry myself.
Mhm.
That's not possible. And think about it. If you did marry yourself in a, you know, the opposite gender, it would just be like, oh, you'd be driving each other crazy. So there has to be some polarization, some opposite, some contrast, even some conflict. It has to be there. Something else I was gonna say. It went away, but yeah, so that's reality. And then the thing is, oh, it's just right there. Come back, come back. I don't know, I lost it. It'll come back
Can I
later.
say something?
Yeah,
Maybe you
it'll
remember.
come back, yeah.
She grew up in New York. She likes the mountains. I grew up in California. I like the beach. So wherever we're going to go somewhere, it's like, can we go to the mountains? No, can we go to the beach? Then I'm like, why don't we just go where the mountains hit the beach? So it's, you know, how you're raised has so much of an influence on what your preferences, and you know how your house was and the mood of the house. And it's so hard to accept reality, isn't it? Have you noticed? Have you noticed lately? It's hard to accept reality. You know, this is like how this person is by nature. It's just, that's the way they're going to be. And that's, you know, it's like, that's the person you chose. A lot of marriage books, they say the person you choose someone because of the things you like about them, and you get with the package all the things you don't like. It's just the way it is. You're not going to like everything about them. And like Jahnava was saying, well, you watch too many movies, you think, no, there's perfect people out there, you know. Your soulmate is Krishna. It's the soulmate. No. So you'll get all the things you like, and you'll get a lot of things you don't like, and that's just part of the package. And you as an individual will grow by learning to accept. You know, some people say to me, well, I'm so accepting. But I think it's just part of, you know, I'm accepting with other people, and I don't get upset that easily about things. And they say you're so accepting because they're used to dealing with sannyasis who don't have families and kids, and you know, they have a more controlled environment. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm accepting this? You're just like, oh, we're sorry we made you wait. I'm like, I'm married, you know, I know how about waiting. You know, it's just normal. It's just part of life. So I think it's really healthy just to learn to be accepting. And if you're not, you're going to frustrate your partner and yourself.
Yeah, so
You remember?
kind of, yeah. It's just this idea, I mean, I'm kind of being redundant, but looking at it from different points of view, it's looking at it like my way is the best way. But no, their way could be as good, if not better than your way. You're just willing to put down your ego and just listen and receive and allow yourself to be influenced. And,
That's a principle,
I know.
being influenced.
Yeah. And yeah, like Mahatma was saying, that we're just all different and we just come into relationships with different natures, different personalities, different lifestyle preferences, and also different histories. And one of the really important sort of game-changing things that one can do to make their relationship better, especially when they don't understand, when there's conflict, when they're just really feeling confused or unsure about why the other person is behaving the way they are, speaking the way they are, or doing what they're doing. What we generally do is we judge and we criticize and we assume. And those are the killers. But what we should do is inquire and get curious and ask open-ended questions, because behind every behavior, every action, there's a story. And within that story is your ability to break through, to understand why this person is the way they are. And when you can do that, they feel heard and understood, and there's this level of compassion, and there's this energetic flow between the two of you that is very, very loving and very healing. So if you think, oh, why does he do that all the time? Or why does she say that all the time? Or why, they're too messy, they're too neat, they drive too fast, they drive too slow, they talk incessantly, or they never open up, or whatever it is, something about them that just irks you. Because we don't want to pretend that everything's, rainbows and unicorns and nothing bothers us about them. But instead of staying on the platform of, oh, I hate that, they bother me, why can't they be different? Just find out, what's behind that? What's behind the shyness? What's behind that need to get behind that driver's seat and go so fast? Or, where does your, where does that, messiness come from, or whatever? And there's a story. Well, I came from this home and it was like this, and oh, tell me more about that. Well, it was like this. Oh, that must have been really scary and unsafe and hard. Well, yeah, it really was. And then all of a sudden, you've created this warm, safe, loving space for your partner who feels so emotionally held that they can open up and reveal anything. And that is the best feeling in the entire world. I mean, that's really why we want to get in relationships anyway, is we want a partner who has got our back. That's a very popular term, right? She's got my back, he's got my back, he gets me, she gets me. So create opportunities for your partner to feel that you get them. And what goes around comes around, we know that. So whatever you're putting out, you're gonna get back. 'Cause sometimes what partnered people do is they think, well, I'm gonna wait until he does it. I'm just gonna wait until she says it. And we wait and we wait, and while we're waiting, we're building up more resentment and more conflict and more this, and then by then it's too little too late. So don't let it get to too little too late. Just be the adult in the room, be the holder of love and compassion and kindness, and just get on the program and just get more information about what it is that you're not understanding, instead of just assuming that it's bad and it's wrong and they should stop. Okay.
Wow. Another thing that I think about a lot, not only in marriage, but in general, is that as devotees, we're being trained to develop certain qualities, characteristics, such as empathy and compassion and understanding and kindness and tolerance, and like all these things. If we had them, we'd have amazing relationships, marital relationships, working relationships. So I think it's such a paradox that the very things that we're trained to live by, often in marriage, they get reversed 180 degrees. We become the opposite. Like the devotee who's nice to everyone except their wife or their husband, you know. There's some dynamic there that triggers passion and ignorance. And, you know, if you can't be, it's kind of, it's a bit of a lack of integrity to be nice to everyone and not be nice to your family. It's just, there's something wrong with that.
Well, it's hypocrisy
Yeah,
and it's hypocritical
yes.
and
So I think it's good to think like that. You know. It's just easy. And I'm nice, you know, it's like easy to be respectful to this person because they're on a very high level. Everyone's going to respect them. But to respect people you're familiar with is a real challenge. And I think one of the most important things Jahnava said is that respect is the foundation. And when you break that foundation, everything crumbles and you can't save it because there's nothing for it to stand on. Yes.
Thank you, thank you, Mataji. You mentioned this point that, you know, being nice to everyone and then not being nice to the spouse. The issue that sometimes we face in our married life is that, for example, just a simple example, like we're serving in the temple, and then there's just one plate remaining, we know it's very little remaining, and then we give it off to another devotee with the assumption that we can go home and eat, worst case, and we are still doing it for the devotee. We're sacrificing something for the devotee, who is not necessarily a senior, but like any devotee. So it's good sukriti, it's good karma. Like you're doing it for the devotee. You are sacrificing your plate as well as that of your wife, the devotee. So I think that it's something that would get appreciated many times. Sometimes it doesn't. So I feel rejected when I
And
go,
doesn't, not appreciated by the devotee
by his wife.
or by your wife.
why?
Did you ask her?
No, sometimes
You ask her?
I get angry. Sometimes I mean, she's angry sometimes.
But it sounds like what you're saying is
Yeah,
you gave the plate away without asking her and she might have been hungry.
yeah.
Which is still fine because she sacrificed her plate.
Well, that's for her to decide. You decided for her.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
But why can't I? Because I've done it.
Because she's her and you.
Her plate, you give your half away.
Show me your bank account. Can I take it all? Do I have to ask you? It's something that Jahnava touched on. It's not about me, it's about we. And I have found anytime, we never have conflict, but in that rare occasion, that day of Brahma, we do.
Not actually.
Um,
Have it, not,
yeah, it's about,
you have to have conflict.
we have the conflict about the mountains or the beach, that's the big one. So, but if ever there's a conflict, I always say, we're on the same team, we're on the same side, let's work it out. I don't wanna oppose, right? So yeah, let's offer this. That's you, that's half the team. The we is, what do you think, Devi? It has to be we, both of you agree, and so that's where you ran into the problem.
You
'Cause-
might think, oh, I'd be happy to give this up, but my wife might feel differently about it. So,
But he's saying she should, you're saying she should feel this way. It was like saying, it's like she's saying, I'm hungry, and you say, you shouldn't be hungry. We just ate 2 hours ago. Well, I am. Well, you shouldn't be. Yeah, you can't. She has to, you have to be, it has to be we centered rather than me.
Yeah.
It's so important. You can solve so many problems by just thinking we instead of me. Because you know, you can think of me when you're not married, but you think me when you're married, ooh. You're in for a ride. It's not going up. That's for
it's
sure.
we and us, not me and I.
It's really important. And if you just come home and tell her, I've learned today, it's not me, it's we, she's gonna be the happiest woman in London today, right? Don't you think?
She's in India, so.
She'll be the happy, where's she in India?
Bangalore.
Yeah, she'll be the happiest lady in Bangalore. You're from Bangalore? You see me ever see me in Bangalore?
You had come to our temple,
Yeah.
West Bangalore temple.
Yeah. Okay, where do we go from
Are
here?
there anyone
Anyone else?
want to ask a question
Yeah,
or share a
yeah,
comment?
Yeah,
Hare Krishna. sorry if this sounds not phrased right, so try. Matthew, you talked about trying to understand where the other person may be coming from. How do we not fall into the trap of dwelling into it so much that that just becomes the identity of the individual or of ourselves if we're diving into that? So first of all, do you think that's a trap? And secondly, if it is, how do we navigate that? How can we empower ourselves or the individual together that, okay, this is the reasons why we are the way we are today, but is this how we want to stay for the rest of our lives if it's not serving our
Yeah.
connected relationship?
Yeah, it's the same as just saying like, oh, that's the way they are. Oh, why can't you be different? It's just the opposite side of the coin. So I don't think there's too much danger of delving too far unless that's just like your issue, and you just want to really fixate and focus on find something wrong with them. So it's going to be this or this, but I'm going to find it. The purpose in delving is to gain more understanding and perspective of the person as a whole and understand that they have what we call enduring vulnerabilities. It doesn't make it them their complete person of who they are. It's just one part. And because it's a vulnerability and it can affect you, it can be really annoying. But when you understand that there's pain behind it and vulnerability behind it and tenderness behind it, then it brings out some more compassion and tenderness in you, and you're able to just be like, oh yeah, they have a wound there, they're a little bit not so strong there, so I can look past that. And that enables you to see the greater whole of who they are. Does that answer it?
Yeah.
I can answer something. There was a devotee who was thinking about marrying a woman, and he found some dysfunction in her that was concerning. I forget what. She had a certain nature. I think she got upset easily or something like that. And he was asking me, what should I do? And they'd been together almost a year. And she was my disciple, so, like a daughter kind of situation. And I said, if you marry her, you're going to marry her to help her, to heal her. And if you can't do that, if you don't have, if that's not your mentality, don't, because she'll frustrate you. So when Jahnava was saying compassion, it's like, I love this person so much, and I see the problem they have, and my understanding and compassion can help them. Many couples will come together and they both have problems, but their ideas will help one another with our problems. We're not going to judge one another and put one another down, but we'll be able to talk about it and be able to heal one another. So when you were talking, I was thinking, part of the problem is like, well, I don't like what you do, so it's all about me, so it's about me, what I want, and I'm entering a marriage like that. It's really, you have to marry Radharani or something. She has to marry Krishna. No, you shouldn't marry Radharani. It's not your position, but you know what I'm saying. So I think that's important also. It's like, well, it's like me, what I want. I'm the center of the universe, what I need, And another point that Jahnava didn't make, it may not be a little flaw in this person temporarily. It may be the nature, not even a story. It's just nature. I was born like that. I'm like this. I'm introverted or I'm extroverted or whatever. Prabhu, Devi, when you go out, I know you're really extroverted because you just not talk to anybody, because you drive them crazy because you won't stop talking. And they're like, why doesn't your wife stop talking? She's not like that. I'm just saying, So, but you can ask in certain situations, but that's just the nature, and it's like you gotta love it, and you gotta laugh about it, and enjoy it. Otherwise, you'll drive yourself nuts. Have you already done that?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
Did you have a follow-up thing or?
Perhaps clarity on so if so let's say we've come to an understanding that these are the reasons why I am the way that I am. So when it's the nature, then Hare Krishna.
Yeah,
But perhaps is there like a sense of empowerment that we can facilitate, or with compassion to perhaps facilitate that conversation? Be like, do you like to continue being this way, or would you actually like to change something? Because I feel like when we're diving deeper into my history, I think, okay, this is why I'm the way I am, but I kind of don't want to be this way.
Right.
Because it's not serving us, and
Right.
it's not serving the way I want to be
Yeah.
as well. So perhaps the question is, how do we empower the other individual to perhaps say
Yeah.
frame of questioning?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, we don't want to use this is just the way I am as an excuse
Yes.
to continue low level behavior.
Yes.
It's the point in having the conversations to feel heard and held and understood so that they can help you, you as a team can work towards getting to closer to where you would like to be. And that's where the listener, because we have the speaker and the listener, right? So if the listener is doing their job well, the speaker is feeling very comfortable in opening up. And then the listener can, once they've gotten that person to open up and ask all the questions they feel they needed to, then can say, how can I help you move closer to where you'd like to be? How can I help you? What can I do to support you in overcoming this challenge that you have, or becoming more like this and less like this, or giving this and letting go of this, giving this up, like that. Yeah.
there's also other thing that I personally think about is that sometimes I have a nature, but I don't have to act out that nature if it upsets my wife. So like if you just leave me alone, that's how I will be. But if I know that's going to upset her, I'll think, no, she wouldn't like that. So my goal is to make her happy. Her goal is to make me happy. Then we'll deal with that nature in a way that will not disturb them. So I think that's important to recognize. And if I really want to make someone happy, I'll do things that I wouldn't naturally do, but it'll make them happy. And that's the position of servant.
Yeah.
I think that's important, but I think a lot of people don't realize this, that you don't have to act always according to your nature. Like when I would go on book distribution, I wasn't one of those like devotees who are like, what I say, they're like football players, like, hey, where are you coming? They practically tackle people and, and they have these conversations with people like, they remind me of some, seminar leader on stage. They're so dynamic and I'm like, just a little Brahmin, Not entirely, but more of that side. But it doesn't work on Sankirtan. You have to be bold. You have to, hey, we're going, yeah. And then we had devotees who would do that, and they distribute lots of books. And then we would get picked up in a van and drive back to the temple. And as soon as they get in the van, they would just pick out a book and they wouldn't talk to anybody. They're total introverts, but out there you wouldn't know. So for pleasing Prabhupada, they could do that. So, for pleasing your husband and pleasing your wife, you can do things that maybe are not your nature, but you see that it makes them happy, and then it makes you happy. So I think it's important to recognize.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of self-mastery, self-control. Those are Krishna conscious practices to be able to manage yourself and not always say what you feel like saying or do what you feel like doing because you know what the consequences are. And they could be detrimental or hurtful to the other people in your life who theoretically you love the most and value the most. And so we have to really put it in perspective like that. Yeah, great. Grihastha life is all about sacrifice. Yeah.
Thank you.
You have some.
Oh,
Yes.
oh, yeah, go ahead.
So you asked what is commitment for us, and my question is So can you please elaborate a little bit on that? Is it just being loyal towards each other? That's it, or there's more?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more to it. Who wants to? Because I think we can just go around really quickly and ask people what their answer for commitment was. You can just take a few
Can I give
people.
my answer?
Yeah,
If you say it, do it. You're not gonna do it, don't say it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, obviously, you're committed to the relationship, that's, that's the overall commitment. But don't promise that you can't deliver. And your initial commitment. Okay, here, as I teach a course on vows, so I know this stuff, I know things about it that are very interesting. One interesting thing is, when you make a commitment today, like you can make a marriage commitment or an initiation commitment, you have to make it every day. Can't make it one day, it's not a one day thing. Every day, this marriage, I've committed, whatever your commitment was in marriage, every day. You make it every day, the rest of your life. And any commitment you make, that's a long-term commitment, you have to make it every day. I will chant 16 rounds and follow 4 principles, I make that every day, that commitment. Otherwise, I make it on my initiation day and 3 years later, I lose it. Does that make sense?
Sorry, I'm struggling to understand commitment. Such a
No, let's hear let's hear what some of the other people who are in the
Simple.
audience.
You say it, you do it forever.
what is that?
Yeah,
Whatever you said,
Yeah.
you do.
can a few people share their commitment in a sentence or two?
Spoke about when you initially are in a relationship and you're thinking about long-term commitment, it's also the awareness that this is going to change. And to stay together through the changes that may inevitably happen, which you may not know what it may look
Right.
like. I don't know what my relationship is going to look like in 10 years, 20 years time,
Yeah.
but it is going to change. We're going to change. So having that trust that I will be with you when we do change inevitably. So it has
Yeah.
you have to go deeper than just the surface.
That's really nice. She got that. She's nodding her head, and let's hear a few more. We want to help. What's your name? Oh, your
Sorry,
name?
Guy.
Ty?
Guy.
Daya. Daya Ladini. Okay, so that was good. Let's hear a few more that we can offer to Daya Ladini from our own. Who else? Yes, right behind Daya Ladini.
Wow, is showing up like consciously in the relationship. So you can say something with your words, okay, I'm gonna commit to this and make a vow. But when it comes to actually working through stuff, it's still easy to mentally check out. Kind of what you were speaking about before, we're gonna have this argument, but I don't really want to talk about that, So it can become that situation of like you're living together, you're together, but you're not really together. It's this conscious commitment to I'm really gonna try my best to make it work, even if it is like uncomfortable.
Great. Got something from that, Ladini Daya? Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Peru.
Something that I to work on myself is words have power, so try to do something which perhaps is natural for you, but to say positive things and things to motivate the other person, which might not come naturally to you, but just those small things will actually amplify the other person's life and encourage that person to actually do more, and in return you'll feel happy. So it's like but then changing that mindset to say good things. It's like if you start acting right, then your feelings will catch up. I heard that phrase.
That's beautiful. So good. So a commitment to expressing a regular appreciation towards your partner and knowing that that's going to invest in the longevity and the happiness and the strength of both of you individually and collectively.
And you said your words have power. But is that what you said? Your words have
No,
power.
I said I was saying that words have power, right? So if you speak those positive things
Yes,
more often
exactly.
in the
Yeah.
relationship, then
There's a story in Bhagavatam about Lord Shiva being offended by Daksha, and that Prabhupada describes it. Those words were piercing the heart of Sati. And this idea of words piercing the heart, Prabhupada talked about it, you know. How words from loved ones can destroy us. And Jiva Goswami said something interesting. He said, you may criticize someone in your mind, but don't say it. The offense comes when you say it out loud. And he said that will destroy the person. So it's just in your mind, I don't like you, whatever. But at least I don't say it because that's going to harm you. So I think that's important also. Don't always say what you feel. Think about it, you know, because you could destroy somebody with your words. And then you ever try to take back your words
Yeah.
after you say that, like, hello, it's too late.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to cultivate a relationship that's healthy, you will naturally speak positively. And you will avoid negatives. And if you catch yourself saying negative things, just apologize. I didn't want to say that, I'm sorry. So otherwise you'll destroy somebody. You can build them up with positive words and destroy them with negative. You can build yourself up. Have you ever spoken positively to yourself? Have you ever spoken negatively to yourself? You know how that feels, right? You're such an idiot, you're so stupid, how could you have done that? What's the matter with you? Can't do anything right. Great way to destroy yourself. Just keep it up. You'll be in the gutter pretty soon.
When you do, just a side note, when you do express appreciation, that is one of the principles too, towards your partner, you get like the immediate gratification back. You know, it's just instant goodness when you can compliment and appreciate and acknowledge and validate your partner for what they've done or what they said or who they are or anything. It's just, they appreciate it so much. And that just comes right back at you. And what you're doing is just creating this, this energy, this wellspring of goodness between the two of you. And if you can think of your relationship as like a bank account, like an emotional bank account, right? How many deposits are you making and how many withdrawals are you making? And that really is the manifestation of the goodness or the lack thereof, you know, the strength, the abundance of the strength of the relationship. And the really sad thing about this is that withdrawals are so much more powerful than deposits. Pain is so much more rememberable. I don't even think that's a word. More memorable than pleasure. So the problem is, you might be thinking to yourself, well, yeah, just this morning I told my wife that was such a good breakfast. And last week, you know, I told her how much I appreciated how she came home early and whatever, got the kids to bed or whatever. But you said like 3 negative things that same day and then 4 negative things the other time. So those deposits are nil. They have so little value because the withdrawals, they stick, you know, they stick like crazy glue, and the deposits just kind of fly away. So there's this, the research shows that there's this principle called the 5-to-1 principle. So it's,
How many of you know that principle? Oh, wow.
so it's 5 positives to every 1 negative. So if you do something negative, and that means any kind of withdrawal, a behavior, a comment, an action, you have to make up for that with 5 positives. It's not a 1-to-1 ratio. And it's just something to keep in mind. A, really avoid the negatives, really avoid the withdrawals. And B, if you make one, you got to really step up with the positive ones to try and even the playing field out.
And every couple who's close to divorce has nothing in the bank account, isn't it?
Yeah. Or even not only
Negative.
nothing, but negative
Yeah,
balance,
you can,
yeah.
that, it's a really interesting indicator of a relationship. How much is in that bank account?
The withdrawals, what happens is our heart starts keeping score. You know, and it informs the mind, so they're keeping score together because it's pain, it's just sheer pain. And with the positives, those scores being kept, but it's on the back burner as opposed to the front burner. But the beauty of it is that if there's lots and lots of positives, lots and lots of deposits, then even when there is a withdrawal here and there, no big deal. I mean, I can say that with us, that we, you know, we say rude things to each other and do mean, stupid things to each other. But it's so insignificant. It doesn't mean much to me when he does something that I consider not loving or respectful or whatever. So what? Because our you know, our bank account has so much abundance in it that it can handle some negative blows here and there without really affecting it. So you want to get to that point where there's so much goodness, there's so much trust, there's so much commitment that the negative, because it's going to be there, we're not perfect. So you have to just make up for it. And best is do it as little as possible and make lots of deposits. And you know what? You can check in with your partner and say, how am I doing in the Bhakti account? What do you feel like I'm doing well? Because we do need validation and acknowledgement. And where do you feel I could do better?
I have something funny for the men. If you buy 12 roses, it's one deposit. If you buy 12 roses and hide them in the closet and give one every day for the next 12 days, it's 12 deposits. If you buy her one new Mercedes Benz, it's one deposit. There's a lot of men, they do something big and they think, okay, I'm off the hook. I just like watch TV the rest of my life. It doesn't work that way for women. It works that way for us. Which is a really good point, that when whether the we is the male or the female, we do something, we're doing it from our perspective, and then we don't understand why it didn't work for the other person. Because they don't think that way. One time I was with some friends and we're like, like guys just joke with one another, they say all kinds of nasty things, and my wife heard it, and she was like, how could you say that? I go, don't worry. He's just gonna laugh it off. But for a woman, women would, if they said something like that, that would be like the end of the relationship. You know? You'll meet your old friend and he's like, 20 pounds heavier, and you'll see this, and you go, hey, when you give me birth, and your wife's like, I could say that. But with men, it's important to understand that just because I think a certain way doesn't mean my wife will or otherwise. So you have to know the language and the feelings and so forth, because you'll do something and like, why'd you get upset? And like, I don't know anyone who would get upset. Well, yeah, you don't know any other women, but the men would, but the women would. Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Do we need to take a break?
Yeah, we need to take a break because we've been here an hour and a half and we don't want to just sit around and.
Do you people feel like they want to take a break?
I think it's good. Stand up, breathe, get some water.
Yeah, okay.
Go outside and see the clouds. Is it cloudy or sunny? Okay, so we have till 1 o'clock, which means we have hour and 15 minutes to perfect your lives, your married lives. Let's see what we can do. What Jahnava is going to do now is teach us some studies that indicated the 4 things that will destroy a marriage. And obviously we should be doing the opposite of these, and she will talk about the 4 things and the way to counteract them, the opposite behaviors. It's extremely important.
So in the research, very extensive 4 decades of research that have been done by the Gottman Institute, there were 4 destructive behaviors that really just were the manifestation of the breakdown and the demise of a relationship. And that's the bad news. But the good news is that there are what we call antidotes to them. And so what I want to share with you today is what those behaviors are. And then I want to share the antidotes with you. And we'll do an exercise so you can take some time to think about where you fall in the spectrum.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
Turn to the person next to you and tell them, I am ready. Yeah, you need to be enthusiastic. Very important.
Yeah.
So these are going to
You're more than ready.
most likely sound familiar to you. Even if you don't do them, you've probably seen other people in your lives do them. And the first one is called, well, let me say this. So Dr. John Gottman, who I studied under, he's American, but he's pretty prolific, and he's wrote many, many books. And he wrote one book, which is sort of the most famous, called The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work, which is what the 7 principles that I alluded to earlier is based on. And so he did decades of research. He took a year off from his teaching, and he opened up a lab in the University of Washington in America. And he had 350 different couples come in from all different kinds of socioeconomic backgrounds. And they would spend the weekend there, and he and his team would be studying them with video cameras and through mirrored walls, and they'd be taking sample urine and blood from them throughout the day to see how their immune functioning was going, and stress hormone levels, and
Heart
they were-
rate,
heart rate,
sweat on their hands.
yeah, and facial expressions decoding. And then it took them 10 years to compile all the data. And with 97% accuracy, they were able to predict which couples would still be together and which ones were history. And so that is the culmination of the 7 principles for making the marriage work, and the 4 destructive behaviors, which he called the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. So the apocalypse is something that is a biblical thing. I don't even know, but something happens in the Bible and it destroys the world. And there are horses, and there's men on the horse, and each one is compared to one of these destructive behaviors. So the first one is criticism. And criticism is when we are criticizing and speaking poorly towards the other person in a way that makes them feel that there's something wrong with them, as opposed to their behavior, like a character defect or a character deficiency, or just, making them feel like there's something wrong with them. So, it might look like something like, if I'm leaving dishes in the sink all the time and my husband doesn't like that, so he says, like, you're so lazy, why can't you just wash the dishes like you're supposed to? Or let's say he does it, and then I say something like, you're so selfish, you only think about yourself. I do everything and you do nothing. Why can't you just wash those dishes? And it's
What's wrong with you?
yeah, what's wrong with you? Didn't your mother show you how to, be hygienic and clean?
Hurts the most.
Yeah, with the mother, yeah. Another example might be, if I was supposed to put petrol in the car and I forgot, and then he needed to take the car to get to a really important appointment, and I said I was gonna do it, but I forgot. So when he went and he couldn't go, and he came running back in the house, like, what's wrong with you? There's no petrol in the car. You only think of yourself. You're so self-absorbed. And now I'm gonna be late, and because I'm gonna be late, I'm not gonna get the job. Because I'm not gonna get the job, I'm not gonna get the we're not gonna have enough money to feed the kids and pay the mortgage and everything's gonna be a wreck and, we're gonna starve and die or something like that, that's extreme. But when someone's really upset, they might go off a little bit like that, or, just so many ways we find fault with the person for doing something or not doing something that we don't like or approve of. So that would be your example of criticism. Then there's defensiveness. So with defense,
It's character assassination.
character assassination, yeah, exactly. With criticism.
Instead of saying,
Well, don't do that because that's the antidote. We're gonna show you the way to do it. Right now, I'm just explaining, these are the wrong ways to speak to your partner about bringing up something that you don't like about the way they're behaving. Let's say with defensiveness. So let's use the dish example. He says to me, you're lazy and why don't you, and I'm just like, well, maybe I am lazy, but you know what you are. You're this and you're that, and you're this and you're that. So I'm just turning the blame back on him. I'm just deflecting it, and then I'm gonna start criticizing him to take the attention away from myself. Or I might just,
because you leave the dirty dishes, I leave them also.
yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, I'm just doing what you do. Or I get really defensive. Let's say he says you were supposed to, take out the trash, and now the whole kitchen smells so bad. And that was our agreement, you're supposed to take out the trash. And then I'm like, no, I wasn't. No, I didn't. I didn't agree to that. I never said that. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. And then it, turns into this whole thing. So defensiveness is really about denying, taking, just completely denying, or it's about turning that over the blame and then blaming them, and then starting to just find fault and critical things about them. Then there's what's the next one? Brain's not working. Contempt. So contempt is like criticism on steroids. And of all the horsemen, it's the most toxic. And really what it is, like you said, character assassination. Contempt is the way we make someone feel very low and we make ourselves feel very high. It's this holier than thou attitude, and it's always present in abusive relationships, but it's also present in non-abusive relationships. And it makes somebody feel very small and dumb and stupid. So let's say we're playing a game of, tennis or something, and, he keeps messing up. And I just say, like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you hit that ball? You don't know how to play tennis. You don't know how to play any game. You're uncoordinated. And let's say, he wants to do a load of wash, and he doesn't even know how to use the washing machine. And so he says, can you show me? And I'm like, I roll my eyes and I make noises, and I'm like, are you joking? You don't, how old are you? Or let's say I want to apply for a new job, and I go to him and I say, I'm thinking about applying for this job. And he says, you'd never get that job. You're not good enough for that. You're not smart enough. You're not pretty enough. You could never get that job. So it's making someone feel, in a way, it's a little bit of like a gaslighting thing. It's making someone feel really incompetent. So that's contempt. And like in America, we have I don't know if you have it in England, but in America, we have in the court system, if somebody's being really unruly and really disrespectful in court, the judge says you are in contempt of court. It's like the highest way to be disrespectful and unruly and manifesting poor behavior. And if you keep doing it, you could end up in prison. They have to literally take you out of the court. So contempt is really, really toxic. And then finally, the fourth horseman is, okay, help me. Oh yeah, it's right here. Stonewalling. So stonewalling, it kind of looks like what it sounds like on the outside. So if you think of a wall, or you think of somebody who's just almost just like doing nothing, like just look at me. It's like nothing's happening, but what's happening is a big tsunami of emotions and fear and anxiety and stress hormones being released because I'm feeling unsafe about the conversation that's going on because my partner is attacking me through criticism or through contempt or through both. And it's feeling unsafe. So I retreat and I become unpresent. I basically withdraw emotionally. So I'm here physically, but I'm actually not there anymore. And so what you'll notice sometimes if someone is stonewalling or you're stonewalling, and the person that's sort of triggering the stonewalling will say, "Are you listening to me? Do you hear what I say? Why won't you say anything back to me? Is this just not important to you?" What's happening is there's all kinds of physiological changes going on in your system, and you're feeling very unsafe. The nervous system is completely irregulated. And when that happens, it's just usually somebody will just probably run out the other, I can't talk anymore, or they'll turn their chair, and so that,
I'm doing it right now.
yeah,
Let's say she were talking to me.
he just can't listen to me anymore. Or if you were facing me, you might be looking down on the ground or looking up at the wall, but not looking at me. And it's so frustrating to the person who's causing, well, I don't know, causing, but triggering it. And yeah, it just becomes a very painful, scary situation. So a lot of times a person will run, I have to go walk the dog now, or just come up with some excuse. And what happens before stonewalling is all the physiological changes start to happen. So like Prabhu was saying, you might feel your hands sweating, or you start to get a headache, or a lot of heat is rising in your body, or your heart starts to palpitate a little bit. There are physical symptoms to alert you, to inform you that you are moving into stonewalling, because the nervous system is saying, setting off these alarms, unsafe, 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 red flags, red flags. And that's when you go into full stonewalling mode.
Can we take a vote? How many of you have stonewalled before? Oh,
Yeah.
it's pretty
We're gonna
common.
do this.
Pretty common.
Yeah, I've done it.
Can I just ask for some clarification?
Yeah.
In that hypothetical example, were you stonewalling him by definition, or is that?
He was stonewalling me. I'm at him like, why didn't you do this? And I'm so upset about this. And then it makes me feel like he doesn't care. What's wrong with you? You've turned your back on me. You don't even care. It's not that important to you. Like that.
So he stonewalled you?
Yeah,
I see.
exactly.
One
Yeah.
thing, Madhavi, so when there is a fight, especially when we're not together and on a phone call, he disconnects the phone call. And I am generally upset with that, and I keep calling over and over again. He says, I need some time alone
Yeah,
to get over this, and I'm not okay with time alone. Because I cannot be at peace, do anything at peace
right,
when she is, whatever, mobile walling. So,
right.
so
Okay, you brought up a good point. So these are different conflict resolution styles. So for her, she really does need the time. She's gonna process whatever happened in that conversation. It's gonna take her time to process it before she can come back and have a more civil, rational, calm conversation to figure out how to solve this. Whereas for you or other people, you wanna figure it out right now. Let's just have it out, let's talk it out, can't go to bed. We need to figure it out. So people process feelings and information in different ways and in different time frames. And it's very common for couples to be together who have different conflict styles. And so that's just a great example. So you knowing that she needs more time you have to let her have that time. There's no other way. Maybe occasionally she can get on your time frame and say, yeah, we can work this out now. But in general, one person is gonna have to allow the other person to do it their way and be patient and
He's
tolerant.
like trying, you're like trying to start a car, but there's no petrol in it. Like, damn it, start. You know, you
And
gotta
the
get the
best,
petrol.
the best thing you can do is say, yeah, you know what? Take all the time you need, I'm here for you. I can wait. I love you that much, and this is that important to me that I'm willing to wait. And then you have to come up with your own coping strategies, you know, your own ways of dealing with it, because waiting is hard for you. It's not natural for you. It's not the way you're sort of, you know, designed. But you can. That's the thing. Nobody here is stuck. Nobody's stuck. Well, that's just the way I am, and there's nothing I can do about it. That is the most unempowering excuse making thing that we can do, and it's not healthy for us or for the relationship. So there are things you can do.
So this brings up an interesting point. That he's seeing that she's stonewalling. So when you see somebody
Well, she's
stonewalling,
hanging up, but okay, go
Yeah.
on.
anyway,
yeah.
we'll just say for sake,
Okay.
any example. When you see someone stonewalling, hello, shut up. Stop talking, because you're just making it worse and they can't hear.
But we're getting to that.
Oh, okay. But
We're going off the,
it's interesting because it was directed towards him
Yeah.
now, and like being aware of it, okay.
we'll get to it though. But somebody else had a question.
That you answered in the conversation. I just wanted to ask, let's say if you are trying to, you understand that the person needs space
Yeah.
and you're trying to give that space, but in the process, what if the person feels like you are now unbothered and you don't care about now, like because you're trying to give that space, which is out of your usual behavior.
Oh, yeah.
The other person might
Yeah.
feel like you're just unbothered or you're not.
Yeah. Yeah, so you tell them, this means a lot to me, but I can see that you need space. And out of my respect for you and your processing system, I'm gonna give you that space, so please know that this means a lot to me and I'm waiting for you to be ready. But there's more to this. I have more of an answer, but I wanna stick to the order, so we're gonna circle back to this. Okay, thank you. All right, so those are some examples of the four horsemen. Do you, Jairade or Daya, want to give any more examples? Because they both are in the mental health field and they're both familiar with this. Do you think I've left anything out that you want to add?
Just add stonewalling, just an example, maybe about that. Sometimes there's I think it's just described differently. There's different patterns of how people interact. So there's demand, withdrawal. So demand is that when one person wants to talk and the other person doesn't. And withdrawal that both people kind of don't want. Demand is when both people do want to talk, but it can be quite heated discussion. Sometimes if you recognize what the pattern is and then use some of the antidotes, it can be quite helpful.
Well, I'm going to circle back to you on that. Is there anything you want to add? Okay. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to get into the antidotes of the four horsemen. So there's the way to do it and there's the way not to do it. And I showed you the way not to do it. So the antidote to criticism is to use a gentle startup. And that would look, I'm going to just keep going with the dishes example. That would look like,
You're the best dishwasher in the universe. Look at all these dishes, you got such big muscles. You clean the dishes so well, I just love the way you.
doesn't look like that at all. That would look like, there's a lot of dishes in the sink right now. And it would make me feel like more respected if you could wash the dishes like we agreed. I would feel more respected. Or I'm feeling like we're not, sharing the load here. I'm really careful to do all my dishes. Could you please, make sure that you get yours washed too? Or have you been really busy lately? I noticed that the dishes aren't being done the way they're supposed to. Do you need help? Is there something we need to rearrange or rethink the duty, the cleaning duties in the house? You see, it's not about them, it's about the dishes and how it's affecting you. So the more you can talk about I, me, and feelings and less about you and what you do and who you are and how you do it, the better. I see all the dishes in the sink and I'm just thinking, whoa, I have a lot to do today. And I don't know if I can get all these done. And that means when I get home from work, dinner is going to be late because I have to wash these before I start dinner.
Can I give a real life example?
Maybe.
This is, Jahnava says this sometimes, maybe I say it, I don't know. You see those dishes in the sink, do you know anybody that can wash them? I go, I'll look for somebody, let me see if I can find some.
That's not really a gentle tone. That's our humor. We have a lot of good humorous, ways we can ask each other to do things.
But it has the same effect.
It does, but that's only, yeah, okay, fine. But there has to be a level of respect and consideration in your gentle startup. The petrol, yeah, he comes back and he's like, oh my gosh, there's no petrol in the car. We did agree that it would get filled. And now there's no petrol. I'm gonna be late for my appointment. So he didn't even say like you left, you didn't fill it, or it's your fault. He just said we did agree. There's no petrol in the car. And so I'm gonna hopefully think, oh my God, first of all, I immediately apologize. Second of all, what can I do to help you get to work faster? It's about letting the person know that you're not happy with the way things are and you would like respectfully ask them to help make it better. Does that make sense? I don't know, I can't think of any examples, so I usually have a million. Can
Well-
anyone think of an example? In their own lives, or you can make one up?
When you say dishes, so the thing that sometimes I will expect is I I didn't agree to do the dishes. I had like some other stuff to do, professional, spiritual, whatever. And despite that, I did the dishes. So my expectation is that it's more like I did the dishes. Yeah, maybe like incomplete or whatever. I made that attempt. So sometimes she says, you despite all this, all the stuff, the other stuff you had, you made an attempt to help me with the dishes. The act itself is very pleasing, she says, and that makes me feel good.
I love that. That's beautiful. Yeah. And you could say, I know I'm not doing the best job. I've run out of time. So, please excuse me. Yeah. But there's just so many things, the way the bed's made, the way the towels are folded, the way the laundry's done. I don't know why I'm getting into domestic things, but, the way you spoke to my mother, the way you, whatever. There's just so many things that we see our partner do that we wish they would have done differently, or we know they can do better, or they didn't follow through in something that they said they would do. I'll give you one. So there's a couple and the one of them, Zoe's walking into other rooms, leaving the light switches on. And then the other one's always like turning them off. So the critical way would be, you're always wasting Krishna's energy. Why can't you just, you're such a waste. You waste Krishna's energy all the time. Just turn the lights out. You don't need to keep, just turn them out. It's such a waste. Gentle startup would be, it would be so nice if we could keep the light switches off when we're not in the room. That way we could save a little more money and get to Vrindavan faster. We could save up for that house we're dreaming of.
I noticed the sun god was awake in your bedroom and you put him to sleep.
That's a good one.
I have a I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What I think, and I think we do this also, is like, when I need to tell you something, tell me how to tell you, just like what, because I may do all the gentle startups and you're like, shut up, you know, it doesn't work for you. Gentle for me, but not for you. So is that part of the gentle startup philosophy, that we can tell one another, when you have to tell me something, tell me this way, make a joke, or, you know, scratch your head, then I know something's coming, or whatever.
Can you give an example?
Well, I think you've done that with me, so you need to just ask this way, not that, don't say it this way, say it this way. And I've probably done it to you,
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
like, this is, like, I understand that language, it makes sense to me, it communicates.
Yeah.
So it's good to know. I heard that one couple, they had, when they started having stupid arguments, they developed hand signals just to like, tell one another, this is a stupid argument, we should stop. And I think one of them was like, you
Yeah,
know, it's like, oh, okay, this is dumb, let's stop. So it's something that communicates,
yeah,
that's agreed upon, so you know it works.
yeah, every couple needs their bag of tricks. And so when one thing isn't working, you know, you can pull out another. And humor is one of the most effective ways to dissolve, you know, a conflict and just make things lighter, and also repair something that needs to be repaired.
Yeah.
But when your relationship is not on a really solid ground, humor often doesn't work. So you can't rely on it. It can just be one of the tricks in your bag.
It's taken offensively, right?
Yes, and it's taken offensively and it's just ineffective. So when there's a really big conflict, or there's just a lot of resentment in the relationship, then nothing can replace kind, respectful conversation and language, and sort of that humble approach to communication. You know, humor's great, but
The
it's
god of water is spilling water on the floor, it's bathroom.
Yeah.
We have a little joke, when we leave something out and it starts to spoil. We go, oh, there's a science experiment. Your science experiment is still in the kitchen.
Okay, so are any more questions about general startups? I mean, this is,
What about the point it ends the way it starts?
oh, yeah, that's a good one. So in the
Can I say it?
research,
Can I
yeah,
say it?
yeah,
This
yeah.
this is really cool. And I used this yesterday in the Japa retreat, Japa class, and I'm gonna tell you also how it applies to Japa. The research finds that has demonstrated that how you start a conversation is how it ends. So if it starts like this, it's just goes down.
96% of the time.
Yeah.
If you approach someone in a negative or antagonistic way, the conversation is just gonna go downhill. It's gonna end up negative and antagonistic and argumentative. Only 4% of the time could a couple sort of repair and straighten out and turn that negativity into positivity.
So I think the visual is, how is your conversation starting? Because if it starts like this, it's not gonna go,
Down.
it's not gonna go like this. And if it starts like this, it's not gonna go like that. So I was saying, devotees, how do you chant your japa? And you start your japa like, wow, I can't wait to chant, I love to chant. Or it's like, oh no. You ever touch your beads and go, yeah, well, you know, was that a good japa day? I don't think so. So it's a good principle, how it starts and ends.
The thing with japa though, it's just you. But with a conversation, there's a whole other person that you don't have
But
control
Krishna does
over.
that.
So but Krishna doesn't go negative, he's just always up. So it's even harder because I think I can get my japa better if I, you know, but with the conversation with another person, it's so difficult. It's so difficult. So it's very, you know, how it begins is how it ends. Just remember that.
So you're saying there are so many situations where we have to point something out that needs to be corrected. And you have to do it
Mhm.
somehow, without character
Well,
assassination.
I wouldn't say corrected, because even that has.
Or
kind of-
adjusted, or something, it's a concern. And you wanna be able to say without
You want to express something that you would like to be addressed or adjusted or changed.
without criticism.
Yes,
Without making the person feel they're being
Yes.
criticized, or there's something wrong with them.
yes.
Yeah.
So there's actually like three parts. There's the situation, there's how it affects you or makes you feel, and then there's the request. How would you like it? You know, the situation is there's a lot of dirty dishes in the sink. The way it makes me feel is overwhelmed. And what would I like? I'd like you to please, I'd like, I don't even have to say you, I'd like the dishes to be cleaned up after breakfast. So that, you know, when we leave the house, everything's tidy in the way it should be.
How-
Situation, how it affects you, and what you would like. And, you know, sometimes we don't even know how we feel. I mean, in our world, we don't have high emotional literacy. You know, a lot of people, how do you feel? I don't know, you know, or we have a very basic vocabulary of emotions, which is angry, sad, happy, mad, frustrated. But, you know, Google how many emotions there are, how many words for emotions. There's something called the feelings wheel. You can Google the feelings wheel, and there's all kinds of subtle, more nuanced feelings and emotions, which really more target and express how you're feeling. And they make that person get it. Like, I'm scared. You know, I'm nervous. I'm afraid. I'm feeling neglected, not just mad, sad, angry, scared. So it makes the other person get more in touch with what it is that you're feeling, which can help them understand more what you need. Yes.
Yeah, there is a book called Non-Violent Communication.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good book that I would recommend. I'm reading a little bit
Okay.
and it's helping me a lot of how to
Mhm.
communicate my needs in a healthy way.
Yeah, I think everybody should read and study on women. You know, it's definitely part of this.
The main point is you're communicating how you feel.
Yeah.
Without bringing the other person in without causing the other person to feel like they've done something wrong.
Thank you. Yes.
And so to do a gentle start properly, there's a lot of prerequisites that kind of have to be in place, because when you're coming home after, you know, stressful day at work, tired and hungry,
Yeah.
and then there's something wrong,
Right.
and I'm not ready for a gentle start.
Right.
It's just like, you know, either
Good point. Yeah.
be quiet or
Yeah, that's right. So
Eat
you have
something.
two options.
Need something.
You have two options: to be quiet and wait until you are ready, or exhibit some self-mastery. You know, take some deep breaths,
What about
you know, pray to Krishna, identify how you feel and what you want. And then,
but
yeah,
it's the opposite. You're ready and she's not. So you just wash the dishes and don't ask her, because you know it's not gonna work. She had a worse day. And she was supposed to wash the dishes, and you sense that, like, if I even have a gentle startup, she's on the edge, I'll just wash them. It's not a big deal. Is that okay?
yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's important to, you know, Dr. Gottman says it's like somebody's sitting in the living room, the lounge room, and they're watching the television, and then the other person comes in and says, "Hey, I don't like that show," and then they grab the remote and change the channel. What did you do? And then, well, I like this show. Well, I like that show. So you kind of have to be watching the same show. You know, yeah, kind of have to be on the same channel, as close to it as possible. Or at least come in and say, "Oh, that's an interesting show. Could we put that on pause for a minute?" And, you know, so yeah, it's all about what you say and how you say it. Or I guess I should say it's all about how you say it and less about what you say. That really is one of the, you know, the secret sauces.
We have just decided to rename this course, Who's Gonna Wash the Dishes?
The digital trophies.
So I think we can go on to the next antidote, if that's okay with everyone. So the second horseman is defensiveness. And it's very straightforward what the antidote is. It's really taking responsibility. Being willing to say, I'm sorry, you're right, I didn't do that. And then expressing how you can make it up. You know, what can I do to make that up to you? So it might look something like, you're right, I didn't do the dishes and I haven't been doing them lately and I've been slacking off. And I'm sorry. And so, you know, for the next week, I'm gonna be like super dishwasher, you know. And you can count on me to continue. And if I slack off again, I don't want to, but if I do, feel free to just point it right out to me. And or if it's something more bigger, you know, and more upsetting and has more consequences, how can I make that up to you? You know, what can I do? Like, let's say you had a date planned and then, you know, someone forgot about the date and then you reach out and say, hey, I thought we had a date tonight. I'm feeling really dejected from you forgetting about our appointment. I hope that that's not going to happen again in the future, because if it does, I'm not sure, you know, I'm on board for this. And then that person, it was a mistake. It was literally a mistake. They had to work late or they got stuck in traffic or whatever, some family, something. So that, oh my God, I'm so sorry. It is not a reflection on how I feel about you. Please allow me to make it up to you. How can I make it up to you? Well, I want to go to this thing and I want to go to that thing. And okay, let's book the tickets right now. You know, kind of like that to compensate. And now let's say there's a situation where there's this big conversation, turns into an argument, and it starts out with the dishes, but then it turns into, yeah, but okay, you know, you've been slacking off and washing the dishes, you haven't folded all the laundry, and then you haven't done that, and you haven't done that, and last week this and that, you know, and there's a whole laundry list of things that, you know, in my estimation, he has failed to do, and he was supposed to do them. But it's not all accurate. I just went off on a roll because I was really emotionally upset. And they're not all true. So for him, he's thinking, wait a minute, I don't want to take responsibility for all these things that I didn't do. That's ridiculous. You know, that's too much. So he might say he doesn't have to take all that responsibility. He'll just take responsibility for the things he truly did not do. You're right, I didn't do the dishes and I didn't fold the towels and I didn't do this. But just leave the other stuff out, you know, but you're wrong about that and that's not true and that's not true. Just leave it. You don't have to bring that up. Just focus on the things that you are able to take responsibility for because it's accurate. So that's the antidote to defensiveness. It's taking responsibility. It's a willingness to apologize. And it's a willingness to, you know, compensate and let the person know, how can I make up for this? What can I do to make up for this? No, letting them know. And it's really about putting the ego to the side. Just so you know, a lot of this is about just willingness to put your ego down and that this person's more important than my big fat ego.
Wow, I didn't know marriage was so expensive. You have to turn your ego in. Whoa. Hare Krishna. Okay,
Should I keep going or did you want to add anything else?
I could tell more jokes, but keep going.
Okay, so now we'll do the antidote to contempt. So I love this one. Because contempt, as I was saying earlier, is so toxic and it's really the destroyer of a relationship. But I love the antidote. The antidote is to create a culture of appreciation in the relationship, in the family, in the home. And that is expressed through constantly, not insincerely, but constantly looking for things that you can appreciate and thank your partner for. You know, I love the way you did that. That was so amazing. You know, that looks so good on you. It matches your eyes. You know, you're so confident of that. Just any way, anything you can look for. And it's the opposite of what we were talking about earlier, which we spent a lot of time on, is just all the things that we don't like about them. Well, they're this and they're that, and I wish they were this and I wish they were that. And that can just become a whole attitude. And when you have that attitude, you go nowhere. But when you have the attitude of gratitude, you can go very far. And so having that attitude of gratitude, this culture of appreciation, you know, thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. And you're so good with the kids. And it's amazing how you this and little things. No one's looking for big, huge, you know, you're the greatest ever. Yeah.
You're such a great speaker.
Thank you.
I was thinking, you know, you didn't wash the dishes, you said you would, yeah, but your eyes are beautiful.
Exactly.
Can't use it like that.
Yeah, no, but you can, just don't do the dishes part. So and then that becomes the ethos. That becomes the energy, the present energy in your home is about what my partner does do well and does do right and does contribute and has offered and is, instead of all the negative stuff.
And you don't want to raise kids unless you have this environment at home, because you're going to ruin them, because they're going to become critical and negative and defensive, etc., etc. Then I think that's a huge impetus to create this culture at home, because you're going to raise children. You could easily raise dysfunctional children. It's not difficult these days. So it's really something to think about. You live by these principles. They grow up with these principles. That's what they're going to do when they get married, and that's how they're going to deal with their friends.
And then just to point out that most of us come from homes that have not emulated that, you know, not from homes of culture of appreciation, homes of dysfunction, homes of not treating each other the way we would like to be treated. So there has to be a very conscious effort to break this kind of generational behavior. So there's a lot of consciousness of mind. It's a kind of sadhana, let me put it that way. We have our spiritual sadhana, but we also have our grihasta sadhana. And our grihasta sadhana is to constantly be making sure that we are doing things to invest and deposit and uplift and empower and create this beautiful culture of appreciation, so that when people come over to your home, they feel it and they see it and they hear it and they're like, wow, these people are incredible.
So many times when someone has a problem, behavioral problem, marriage, I will ask, is that the way your mother treated your father? Is that the way your father treated your mother? I would say 99% of the time they say yes.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, like, why are you doing that? It's so bad. And they're like, I know. But sometimes you don't know why you're doing it. It's just that's what you grew up with. So, but if you grow up with, it's normal. So, oh, I have a disciple. She grew up in a very dysfunctional family. And she didn't know it was dysfunctional until she married and moved in with her husband's functional family. And she said, oh my God, I now realize how dysfunctional my family was. I had no idea. So sometimes you don't know, but you know, it's always good to reflect. Am I just doing something that I think is normal that's not?
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Okay, can we?
I think there was a question.
Yeah, so Mataji, when you say antidote for anything, antidote is basically like, for example, you have poison and you remove the poison, you have antidote. So perhaps like, let's say defensiveness. Let's just take a simple example where let's say I'm handling something, a bag or something, and I carelessly handle it. and it breaks. The point is, yes, my spouse is angry with me because I was careless. But my look, I don't even need to say that I look is like literally, and she starts like saying, "You're always irresponsible. You have no value for money. This is not our money. This is Krishna's money." Like you said, like weaponizing Shastra and everything. And then I take a look at her and like saying, literally out of the infinite other times when you've done it, and I've been like, it's okay, so what? We can buy another one. So my what like I'm not looking at an antidote now. I'm looking at a response
Yeah,
to potentially what I feel as a
yeah,
slightly hypocritical situation.
yeah, such a good question. I know you have an answer for that. I'll give mine.
Don't say anything.
Uh, well, I think, okay, that's your answer, which is totally
Experience, from
valid.
experience. You go down, you're going
I have
down
a
the
better answer.
rabbit hole if you start talking.
No, here's a better one, which you need to do more often. Okay. Okay, I think that's good, but what you could also do, and this takes, I mean, look, all of this takes practice, but practice makes. Yeah, it just takes practice. So here's something you could do is when your wife is saying all that, or whoever is saying all that, it's there's something else going on for them. You know, it's not really about that. And a lot of times you can just say to her, wow, it sounds like you're really upset about the way I've handled this bag. It sounds like you think I should be more careful in handling things. It sounds like you think I'm too rough on things. In other words, you're just validating, acknowledging her feelings. And I'm going to say 8 to 9 times out of 10, she'll just be like, yeah, exactly. And then you could move on. People, we're all different, and some people have the need for more validation and more acknowledgement than others. And the way that comes out is they find fault with other people, or they point things out, or they pick things out. And as soon as you can just acknowledge that you've heard them and you understand them, they're like, yeah, that's it, now let's go. So my suggestion is that you tune into not the picking out of what she's saying, but her feelings and what it is that she just needs to hear back, which is that you've heard her.
Also, behind every criticism, there is an unmet need, is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Behind every criticism is an unmet need, and so
Yeah.
what is that need?
I mean, how does that land with you when I say that? Do you think, oh yeah, I could do that? You're like, no way.
No, my only thing is that next time, for example, if she breaks something, and I really expect my expectation will go up by that much. If I get the feeling that, oh, I've been such a nice you, I've been like a devotee, I've been like a true devotee, I've shown like a Vaishnava characteristic by responding in the way that you mentioned, Mother. Then my expectation next time will become sky high in terms of my spouse also reacting that way.
Well, that's where you've made your error. It's not about expecting from her, it's expecting from you. So the next time she breaks the bag, you say, oh, here, let me help you. That must have not been a very strong bag. Can I get another one for you? It's not about keeping score with, well, I did it, now you have to do it. Well, I do, now you have to do it. It's about you doing it and not worrying. And then eventually what happens is she softens. But she, I mean, I don't know her, but people behave in certain ways because certain needs aren't being met. So we have to take extra care of them, even though it may not feel like it's a thing we want to do because they're not. So it's listening to the message and not the words. There's some need that's not being met. So to acknowledge the need and not be hurt.
I think
by
what
the-
he's saying is there's this temptation to get even.
Yeah.
Not even, like at the very least, like can acknowledge the fact that
Oh, you wanna be
I've been so nice.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
You can't demand that.
Yeah.
So like John was saying, maybe it'll be obvious.
What's
Maybe
that?
it won't.
It's
maybe,
gonna take time. I mean, if that is a regular pattern in the relationship, that's just a regular pattern between the two of you, then all you can do really is change yourself. And consistently change yourself, not like 1 out of every 5 times, but consistently. And then eventually, I can't say when, but eventually she's gonna notice that. And that's gonna make her change, most likely. But you have to be the one to just decide, I don't like this dynamic anymore. I'm tired of it. But I can't make her change. All I can do is make myself change. And I'm gonna do it. And this is how I'm gonna do it. And I'm gonna do it consistently, despite not getting the acknowledgement that I want after the first or second or third time. I'm gonna show that I can continue to show up and be the man that she would like me to be, even if I don't get back from her what I think I should. I'm gonna, give yourself like the 30-day challenge, That's what Tony Robbins, if you've heard of him, he gives couples 30-day challenge, the 90-day challenge. When people are unhappy, he says, well, you fix yourself and do it every day consistently for this many days and then see what kind of result you get.
yeah, and I would also add to that, that's a male response, to just be kind and not denigrate her for her mistakes, even if she denigrates you, that's a male response. Controlled, disciplined, tolerant, that's what it means to be a man.
That's so true.
So if you think that way, say, okay, I may not expect her to respond that way, but I should respond, like she's saying, but see it as, no, and a male response in so many ways. There's a male response that maybe the women can't respond to in the same way, but we can think, well, as a man, I will. When you say, well, you always do that, and then you're kind of like denigrating yourself, saying, can I be like you? Can I be a little more feminine in the bad way, not in the good way?
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
So we go to the next one because we want to leave a little time for
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah,
So-
so stonewalling is, the antidote for that really is to just let your partner that you can't have this conversation anymore, that you're not feeling comfortable or safe, that you need a break. That, if you say anything else, it's gonna be the wrong thing, that you're not feeling able to continue, that, it's not gonna go well. And you ask, can we please have a break from this? And then you agree when you're gonna come back and try and have this conversation again. And at least 20 minutes, but anywhere from an hour to 24 hours. Generally, what happens if you wait more than 24 hours, you won't go back to it in a calm, rational way until it comes up again in the same way it just did. It'll come up and then you're like, oh God, here we are again. I'm stonewalling again. Oh my gosh, how do we do this? So, and sometimes the other person notices you're stonewalling. And then or you notice your partner stonewalling, and then you can say, oh, you seem really uncomfortable right now. Like this is like you're not feeling safe. And would you like to have a break? And then you both go off and don't do your break together. Go separately and do what makes you feel distracted from that conversation. So it could be something really mindless, like folding laundry or washing dishes or running around the block, or something physical is usually good because it changes your physiological state. So doing something with the body is a very powerful way to change your emotion. So jumping jacks or yoga or whatever. Or, I don't encourage people to go on their phones, but sometimes just some silly little game or something, or, some little sport or something, whatever. Everybody has their little ways that they try and de-stress. So find some little de-stressing activity within your toolkit and, just take a big long breath and a big long break. And like, if possible, say, yeah, let's revisit this when we're both calm and we're both able to rationally and not emotionally, talk about this. Just give it another try. And if it keeps coming up in the same emotional way, then you know it's a bigger, more perpetual problem instead of just like a situational problem, you know, that due to lifestyle and personality and background and things that aren't necessarily so easy to resolve unless you're both really tuned into each other. And then you have to, you know, take it to the next level. Did you have a question?
Sorry, when someone's stonewalling you, but something needs to be addressed immediately. So it could be a household thing again, but say for instance, like at a shopping team, you're disagreeing about something, somebody's stonewalling you, but you get shopping, but you're just not getting, what do you do in that situation? Do you just do it yourself then?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, are you talking about an adult or a child? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, with children and adults, you would deal with it a little bit differently. So with an adult, I mean, it just depends. You could, you know, that's when you might bring out the humor card. You know, come on, da, 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 da. You know, you might just do funny things or say funny things or, you know, offer them, you know, a piece of candy, please, you know, get all, you know, just get out of your normal, we've got to do the shopping now. It's 3 p.m. and at 4 p.m. and, you know, you've got to come out with a whole new artistic, creative way to break the ice and break them out of that situation that they're in, and then see if that helps. And with kids, you know, they're usually just stonewalling maybe because they're tired or they don't take the whole thing seriously or they're hungry or maybe there's something that they need to do first before they'll go. So you might just say, you need to eat first, you need to this first, we don't really have time, but dinner will be waiting for you, or get yourself something at the store, or I don't know. I mean, it depends on the kid and all of that, but you really have to get creative. And if all of that fails, then you just know you're on your own and there's just nothing you can do. And that's just the reality for some people, you know. Yeah, you're welcome.
I just wanted to mention because we have 15 minutes, we have a book which we recently published called Marriage Affirmations. And what this book is, it's 20 principles on marriage that have been turned into affirmations. We discussed maybe 7 or 8. And affirmations, the way affirmations work is they take an idea out of your head as a principle or a philosophy into an emotion. Like I can say Krishna loves you, but the affirmation is I'm loved by Krishna. It's a different feeling, right? So some of you know we have the affirmation book on japa. So this is really, really good. Really, really good. We have a longer course and I went through the course and I extracted the main principles of that course and turned them into affirmations and then explained them. This is also a good reminder and you can say them together and it's really, really nice. So I recommend that. We have other books, japa affirmations, self-care affirmations, and other books, but because this is a marriage workshop, this really works well. But the self-care affirmation book is interesting because if you actually care about yourself, you will create a good relationship because you're going to harm yourself with a bad relationship. So, you know, all these questions, what should I do? Well, if you do the wrong thing, you're going to suffer, even though it's difficult in some situations to be tolerant or whatever. But it's an act of self-care to not create a toxic relationship or a dysfunctional relationship. So that also helps. And I think now we can have some questions, right? Yes.
So for the solution for contempt, you said create a culture of constant appreciation. That's really beautiful. So I have 2 questions. There's 2 parts. One is is there something we can do to ensure that the appreciation that we're giving is actually received authentically as well? So sometimes what I'll find is maybe it's said in a very jokingly manner, not just with my partner, but in general. It's that, oh, he's just always sweet, so we don't even know if he's truthful to us. So that's part one. And second is if you are giving an authentic compliment, and let's say it's being received in a very analytical sense, so they try and now pinpoint like, oh, why did you say this? That, you know, or are you saying that you'll only love me if I'm this particular way always? Like, how do you sort of navigate?
I mean, it's there, the art of receiving compliments is there. And some people, especially if they didn't come from a home where there was a lot of complimenting and validating, they feel uncomfortable receiving compliments and then they pinpoint something wrong with it. So if, whoever is in this room hearing this, that if you're one of those people, then try to work on receiving compliments with grace. Think how it was just think that this is an art and I can take this on, I can receive this, I will honor it because the person is taking their time to offer it to me. And just think about how to improve receiving compliments with grace the way they're being given. So it's an art.
Just recently, this question came up because a devotee was being complimented and he's like, oh, they're just saying this because they want something from me. Which is not a normal response, and that wasn't the reason. So I asked him, why do you think you have this belief that people who compliment you will exploit you? And he said, because that's the way it's been in my life. So if you are one who's feeling that way, go back and just look and say, is that because I've been treated that way? And if it is, which it probably is, it's extremely unfair to impose that on someone who's not doing that. But you making that assumption is not good. That is a real relationship, like acid, for sure. You're giving something with a genuine motive, and the person doubts your motive because they've been cheated before, and so you have to be careful about that.
Yeah.
And you can help if your partner's doing that, and you can help her and say, I think, say honestly, this is not my motive. And please don't judge me the way, so and so was with you. I'm not so and so. We do that all the time, well, if my ex used to look like this, and every time you look like this, you're not my ex, and you freak me out. And no, that's I'm not your ex.
Thank you.
What else?
Sorry,
Yes.
a follow-up question. So about this receiving compliments and being a bit more analytical, I seem to always need to know the reason why something is said. And I'm not sure if that sort of relates to what both were saying about previous experiences. I just don't understand why.
You've always been that way?
Yes.
Now, are you like a why person about everything or just with compliments? Oh, yeah, well, that's a bad. So being a why person is good within the proper context, but not in this context. It's just destructive. So I think you just have to recognize that wanting to know why someone would compliment you, it doesn't work. It doesn't, if you're studying political science and why did, Lenin do this? Okay, that's different, or psychology, why do people do this? But then you're judging it's inappropriate in a relationship. Like, he buys you a new car. Why did you do that? I don't know if I want to take it. There's something behind this. Is there a bomb in there? You got life insurance, and it doesn't work in a relationship.
Why do you need to know? What makes you think you need to know?
Because I don't understand where it's coming. It's not that I'm necessarily thinking that there's some ulterior motive behind it. But it's more knowing what the other person is seeing in me helps me receive it.
Okay. Could you ask them that way instead of, would that be more helpful if she asked you that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, what would happen if you didn't know, but you could just take it on and be like, oh, that's nice. I don't know the answer. Would anything bad happen? Okay. And what would happen if nothing bad happened?
Wondering.
And then if you didn't know that and nothing bad would happen, what would happen if nothing bad happened? Like,
Well, in my
Yeah.
head, if I don't know the answer and I'm sort of just taking it on just because,
Yeah.
It's been given.
Yeah.
I think, well, in my head, I'm thinking I just be believing false things about myself just because it was said.
So then you don't believe him or trust him. That's what I'm hearing.
Or you don't believe believe in yourself.
Yes.
That's, yeah. That's the problem. But that's something for you to work on.
But the way you can work on that is by believing and trusting what he says is true.
Yeah, maybe both, but I think it needs to be both. You know, I went to a seminar and we did an appreciation exercise, and the way this works is you go around the room and you appreciate people, but the person who's being appreciated can't say anything. You just have to say thank you. And the reason that, and you can, like, I appreciate you, but you can't say anything. But later when we go around, then you can, and I can't say anything. And the reason was to just accept it. Because it's hard for many people to accept it because they don't believe what the person's saying. And they don't have enough confidence or self-esteem to accept appreciation. So, and especially when you become a devotee, if you have that, no, Prabhu, I'm like the lowest thing that ever landed in the last 10 billion years.
What would happen if he stopped? It sounds like he regularly compliments you. Okay. What would happen? How would it make you feel if he's just stopped doing it all the time and never did it?
I actually don't think I very much because I'm not used to compliments.
That's part of the problem. That's what I thought. You're not used to it, so it feels awkward. Do you compliment yourself? Good job. What's your name?
So, sure.
Say that again.
Sure.
Aishwarya. You ever do something, go, hey, Aishwarya, that was good.
It's rare.
Yeah, that's the problem. I think you need more of that, to work on more of that. Because if you would just feel the appreciation as encouragement that you're doing the right thing. Thanks for that, encourages you. But you'd have to be doing that to yourself. So there's an awkwardness in doing it to yourself because you never got it. Right? And then add Krishna consciousness on top of that. Wow. It's like disaster in the making. Right? Anyway, that's a whole other course on humility, but we're going to be talking about that at Soho this week in the morning Bhagavatam classes. So you may want to come. And we have the course online also. Yes.
Just out of curiosity, would it have anything to do, for example, with her love language? Sense that, for example, maybe his love language,
Right.
maybe words of affirmation,
Right.
a love language, something
Yeah.
different, like
Yeah. 100% agree with that.
Just,
Yeah. No, I thought of it too. Yeah.
I don't agree entirely. It could be both. If it is a love language, but I would say it's both.
Yeah. There may be.
Because
other
it's for some people, it's really difficult to accept praise and compliment because they don't feel that way about themselves. And that would make you question, why are you saying that? I'm not like that.
There,
Isn't it?
there could be more ways that you prefer to be validated and encouraged and loved. And you could look into that, the 5 love languages. It's a book. You can even just look online. You may even be familiar with them. And it's really nice to identify what is your love language, because your love language may really be words of affirmation. That may really, light your fire. And so if it's you're like, well, I just want to give them to her. But for what you're talking about is a separate issue, but for you, like, yeah, okay, fine. But maybe your love language is quality time or gifts or whatever the other ones are. I can't think of all of them, but
Prabhu, my love language is actually a Mercedes Benz. I get all this appreciation.
But it's once you know the other person's love language, it's really nice because they just may be different. And so that means you don't have to offer yours to them, you offer theirs to them, and they offer yours to you. So I think that could definitely be part
Don't
of it.
stop the appreciation. Let's keep it going also. And she has one question. Well, we're supposed to be out of here at 1. What do we do? Move the workshop upstairs? Or-
We have 3 minutes.
1, 2, 3. No, yeah, I think she was first.
Two questions, but I'll try and be quick. The first question maybe arises a bit more from what you said very initially, Malcolm, but you shared a quote by Srila Prabhupada about something along the lines of, when the woman keeps the energy at home, dressed nicely, keeps the energy at home nice, the home is empowered to then go back out and earn for the house. And I've heard that before as well, and I appreciate it. But I think part of me, maybe growing up in the maybe quote unquote modern world where like I work, for example, and we also take on that sort of responsibility. I've noticed even I get almost as an internal trigger point where I feel like as a female energy, sometimes I feel like the worth just comes down to looking good and keeping the house put together. And then also at the same time, I'm also going out and earning and doing all. So I noticed that, I mean, sometimes it comes up in our own relationship, but I noticed that even from Fred's statement, a part of me that feels that honest, I don't necessarily agree with that entirely. I just wanted to understand how we can best.
Well, that's a whole seminar. I would just agree with you because you're taking more of a male role in your life now. And this obviously was Prabhupada's presenting traditional roles. So, you're at home all day. Yeah, that's your job. And your husband or husband to be, when he marries you, he knows you're working and he knows he's not going to get that. At least he should know. I think it's also our upbringing because there's a lot of male energy that women have now more than before. It's not their fault, it's just the way they were raised. It's the way we're educated. You're educated alongside men to study the same things and compete in the same areas. So, is that all right? We're just trying
Yeah,
to
I
say.
mean, there's a lot to say about
Yeah,
that, but
exactly. But
yeah,
I wouldn't feel bad about
I
it.
agree.
But I think it also depends on the person you marry. Some men would not want you to do that. They're like, no, go for it. Become the CEO of Google, behind you. Other men are like, no, I just want a wife to stay at home. That's not your man at this point. But when you turn 35 or whatever, you might change. It happens. I just want to stay home. I want to be a woman. I've been a man. I have too much male energy. I want to have more female energy. From Nasuka. Yes.
I just wanted to thank both of you for doing this. I feel like we're just getting started.
Yes.
So much more.
Of course.
But, maybe not today, but as an ongoing series.
Yes. Yes.
So my question is, do you know if there's any interest, like say on the GBC level for like a ministry of marriage?
Wow.
Or how to train devotees in counseling? Because there's not enough devotees who actually know how to properly certify, train counselors.
I have a theory.
Because it's so needed.
Yeah, I think.
It's so needed.
Yeah.
And to see what you're doing.
Well, I have a good answer. Most of the GBC are sannyasis. I think that answers your question. That's why we don't have any. We don't have representatives.
Dating apps or like devotees.
We have dating apps. There are dating apps for sure.
It's not a ministry that kind of like oversees the whole thing.
There are individuals that are doing it, but it's not. But, yeah. There is an attempt, I think with some gurus, like they have courses and all their disciples have to take those courses before they get married. But that's a really good idea, I think, and I thought of it also.
Or some of the books, like you said, the book with the 7 principles and whatever.
There are some books out there.
Not devotee books.
Yeah.
Good for the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some there's a whole website, the Vaishnav
Grihastha
Vision Team. And then they have some books and they're really, really good books. There is something out there.
Yeah.
There's some resources.
A lot of times it's individual effort. GBC's not, they're overwhelmed. But I've always thought, just as we have a disciple course, we should have a Grihastha course. You can't get married unless you take this course because we're kind of you're kind of going into something blindfolded, and it's our duty to guide you.
I mean,
For
maybe
sure.
back in the old days, we were going in, but now we should learn that.
Yeah.
We have the full marriage course, which will be online soon. It's just my wife will be, we did, a course on marriage longer than this, and then we recorded it. It was a live course and it's been recorded and it just has to be edited. And we did a really good course of preparing for marriage, you know, all the red flags and green flags to look for. And that's online now, for sure.
It would be nice for everyone who's taken this course, if you supply any kind of supplementary.
Do we have everyone's
We can tap into
email or, yeah,
videos.
yeah, for sure. Do we have generated or can we get? Yeah, so we can send that to you, for sure. Yes. For sure. Okay, last question.
That self-disclosure, and because one of my values is transparency, and I would accept my partner to be transparent with me. And with me, I tend to be so transparent that I don't know if they would use that against me. So how do you know where to stop?
Mm.
Because I think that's a problem, that sometimes when you're so vulnerable, you want to talk about past experience, or you want the other person to understand you. Where do you stop? Like, how much do you disclose? When do you disclose?
Yeah. I think it takes time to build. It's not something you're gonna do on the first date or the second date or the third date. You know, it's, you have to build that as you're building the trust and, you know, the connection. So, you know, it's good to be transparent. It's good to be vulnerable. You have to do it in small doses and know how to set boundaries to protect yourself. Some people have the opposite problem. You know, they don't want to share anything until they're married a year later. And then it's like, oh my God, this and that. You didn't tell me any of this. Right.
Notice that if you're not transparent from the start.
Yes.
It's what, and it comes up.
Yes.
Or that conflict.
Right. But you don't want to go on the opposite extreme. So I say just do it, but do it, you know, just have some sense of control over it, managing it, and do it carefully. And so it still feels safe, but it still feels authentic. Because if you're just giving, and they're not doing the same back, then it's not even and it doesn't feel right. And then they'll be scared off, you know, too much information right away. And then you'll feel like, well, they know everything about me, but I don't know anything about them. And so you just have to meet the energy and,
But
take your time.
I would say you want to be with someone who wants that, because maybe some don't. It's just like, I don't want to hear all this stuff, you know. And if it's important to you, why would you want to be with someone for whom it's not important? It would really be difficult for you, wouldn't it? He's like, don't talk about it. And I'm like, no, you have to
Yeah,
know.
but not, it's like, you know, the joke is like because people go on a first date and then there's just like, well, I want this and I want that, and this happened to me and that happened to me, and then, and they, you know, they spell out their whole, the past, the present, and the future, and the person's like, whoa, I just met you. I thought we were just meeting, you know, for a cup of tea or just to, you know, see this program or something. So it's a little too much, too fast to impose that much information that is so close to your heart, that is so dear to you, that, you know, it makes you who you are, but you live through it to be it, to give up so much away so quickly.
That's true, but she still needs to know that
She will.
in the long run.
She will.
We have to end now, and if any of you like, I can sign books, and I think afterwards we go upstairs. We could answer more questions, something like that. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Hope you got something from it. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.